Public service announcement. Nic and Josh spend the first 18 minutes of the show talking about Marvel, and the general trend in entertainment these days regarding the desire for anti-heroes and infighting between protagonists. It does relate to Star Wars, but if you just want to skip to the Rebels discussion, please go to 18 minutes. Thanks.
Test.
Test.
Alrighty.
All right.
Shall we do this?
Yep.
All right.
Let 100 go.
Hello, and welcome to the Rebels Cast. I'm your host, Nick Weymouth, and with me, as always, is your other host, the one, the only, the one in the middle,
Jimmy Papa. Now.
Well, really?
Yeah, how about that?
How do you spell that? You
Jimmy
don't.
Papa Wing Gow.
Is that a gow with a G or a
G-O-W.
cow? Oh, okay.
G-O-W, baby.
G-O-W, baby. I thought it might be a cow with a J. But what do I know? I don't know nothing.
What if cows actually sounded like that? If they didn't go moo, they just went cow.
What a different world that would be.
A whole different
That would
world.
be a different world. Like
CNCs would be horrible.
you would. I was like, you wouldn't teach kids what cows say. And it's like you wonder, would people have domesticated cows or like. Sorry, I was making an adjustment. You like even bother to like raise them. It's like who wants to have a bunch of animals out of pasture that go cow, cow, cow all the time.
Exactly.
And yeah, you certainly don't want the cow says cow. That'd scare kids to death, freak them out. And then and then it's like if that was still imagery that was used to make fun of some large person, it's like, oh look, here she comes, cow.
Well, it's like, why don't... See, I would think, too, if a cow said, cow, you would call it something different. You wouldn't call it a cow.
Right.
Like, and that makes me wonder, is like, why aren't animals named after the sounds that they make?
Why don't we call pigs oinks?
Yeah, or cats meows.
Dogs barks.
Yeah.
That's right. And dolphins... You know?
Yeah.
And
or monkeys... Ooh-oohs.
Ooh-oohs. Look at ooh-ooh. So Kanan's got to go out in the desert to get the big bad mood ooh-ooh to help him.
Right.
See, that would totally work.
Yeah.
But see, there's a whole class of animals that would have no name because they don't make noise, like spiders.
That's true.
So you'd be like, yeah, I'm deathly afraid of
that.
those things. What things? Those things I just said. I'm going to say it. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Those things, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. They're scary to me. And they don't have a name, and that makes them extra scary.
Right.
Because you can't tell someone that you just saw one.
You can't tell one that something's crawling on your face.
That's a deja vu. I'm having deja vu for some reason.
Really?
Yes. It's happening. It's happening, Josh.
Right now.
Right now. I can't believe it. It's actually happening. I'm having the deja vu. Yes. It's very exciting. What do other people call you? Because I just called you that.
They call me Josh Shaw.
Call you Josh, that's right. So we are glad that you are with us for another episode of Rebels Cast, as we are going to talk about the Season 3 finale, which is entitled 0 Hour.
0 Hour.
Yes, the Season 3 finale.
Also the name of a big crossover event in DC Comics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, when a crossover happens in DC Comics, do all the heroes fight each other? Or is that just a Marvel thing?
I think it's just a Marvel thing.
Because Marvel doesn't know. Because Marvel doesn't know how to make bad villains that people like.
Marvel, I think, is in very, very bad trouble right now.
Yeah.
Like in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Comic sales are down.
Well, changing all of the characters that everybody knows and loves.
Probably not a good idea.
Probably not a good idea.
Well, even the guy. But then he instantly retracted.
He's like, that's not what I meant.
That's not what I meant.
It was like, well, okay, but it
yes,
kind of
it was.
But it kind of was, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
It kind of was. And again, it's not that people don't like diversity. It's they don't like you changing characters that exist
right.
already because you're lazy, and rather than coming up with new characters that people will love that have these diversity elements that you want to put in there,
which they've always done.
Yeah,
it's like, I mean, comic books in general have always done that. I mean, they've always, you know, I guess striven for diversity,
right?
But it's usually in, you know, bringing in a new character,
right? Exactly,
like Black Panther.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we want a black superhero,
so
we're gonna have the Black Panther.
Because, you know, we thought, let's just
like, that's a cool name.
Forrest Gump. Let's ignore all the drama that happened with the Black Panthers,
right?
And just say that's a cool name. Right. But we'll put it from another country. We'll make it up, and so that way everybody will be happy. We don't make up, you know, like Spider-Man doesn't fight in some made up place like Metropolis or Gotham City. No, it's a real place. It's New York City. Where's that Black Panther from? Wakanda. Where's that at? On the continent of Africa. Well, where exactly? Well, it's over there.
I was watching a girl's video that
where she met the world.
Well, no, but it's somebody I'm subscribed to on YouTube, and she was talking about this, about the whole Marvel thing, and she was saying that, like, a lot of the times the race change or gender change kind of makes sense, like with say Captain America, like in the comics now. I think, because I think the actual Captain America, I don't follow it close enough, but I think the actual Captain America is Sam the Falcon.
Yes,
I think he's, you know, because, you know, real Captain America is
apparently
a
Hydra
Nazi
agent
now.
Yes,
but anyway. But that one makes sense, because, you know, that character's been around in comics forever,
for a long time, right?
And he's always been Captain America's buddy, and he just happens to be black,
right?
And now that Captain America's a freaking Nazi,
happens to be a Nazi,
right? You know, his buddy steps in to be Captain America. That makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah,
it's like, and it's not necessarily a choice made for either
diversity's sake or
whatever. It's just, that just makes sense story-wise, and that's all I think anybody's asking for.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, if it happens to help with some diversity thing, that's cool, but let the story part of it come first, and then let the other part of it come later. And it's almost like, well, so, but like now Iron Man is a young African-American woman. It's like, you know, okay, and of course they're not saying she's Tony Stark, but it's some new character.
She's not technically Iron Man.
Right.
Like, she's got a new name, Ironheart or whatever,
right, exactly.
because Tony Stark is in a coma.
Yeah. And so it's like okay, so you try to kind of make a story about it, but still it seems very apparent that what you're doing is, okay, the Iron Man comic now is going to feature, you know, this other, and it's like you don't have any confidence in your ability to create new superheroes that people will really enjoy. Yeah. So instead, what you do is say, well, we'll take a superhero, or at least the basic concept of a superhero that everybody already enjoys, and we'll put the diversity onto that, as opposed to, let's make a new character, and we'll make one, don't worry, we'll make one that people love. It's like, you don't think you can do it, so you just slap it on Iron Man or something.
That's what was going on in the video. One of the points behind it was like, you know, Marvel just straight up are just lazy writers, lazy comic book writers, and so they fall back on stuff like that in order to sell comics.
Right.
I mean, they're not really their focus doesn't seem to be as much on telling a story as it is, you know, well, you know, can we make any money off of it if we change a character's gender or change a character's race or something like that? Because new comic people or new books aren't going to sell.
Right.
New heroes aren't going to sell. But Spider-Man's always going to sell.
So let's take a Hispanic boy and make him the new Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's,
I mean, and apparently, you know, he's a cool character and a lot of people like him and everything. But I mean, I don't really know. But I mean, it's still, you know, you can see a hand kind of guiding that.
And that's always the thing. Regardless of what the hand is guiding towards, whether it's something like diversity, whether it's something like Nazis are cool, whatever the hand might be, you know, going towards. Yeah, it's not so much about what it's going to; it's the fact that you can see the hand. Yeah, that the hand is no longer invisible.
Yeah, I don't like it.
That's like, oh no, because now I feel like you're trying to push some kind of, you know, message on me, and I would just rather you do it in an explicit nonfiction way, or in a way that's even more overt in a fictional story than just kind of, well, it's right here, but we don't want you to know it's here, but it's here. So it's like, But anyway, so how did we get off on that? Because we were talking about.
Can't remember.
Yeah, we're talking about. You were talking about 0 Hour.
Yeah, the DC Comics.
Yes,
thing.
the DC Comics thing. And then I brought us on that tangent, talking about how Marvel writers perhaps being lazy, rather than having confidence to come up with compelling villains, they just take all the heroes that everybody likes and have them fight each other.
Right.
It's like...
Which is just dumb.
It's like, come up with villains and new heroes.
I don't like the idea of... I think it's an attempt to make heroes more...
Human.
quote unquote realistic
Right.
and human. Not everybody's really always 100% good and 100% bad.
That's okay.
It's like I get that,
Mhm.
but like that's not why I watch entertainment. I
Right.
want my bad guys to be clearly defined
Mhm.
and my good guys to be clearly defined. Which is something that we're going to talk about a little bit later.
Yes,
you like how I make segues, sir?
Yeah, I do.
You like how I do that?
Do you like how I build those devices that people ride along on? You like how I make segues? I like how you're all intense. Like, you like how I do it? You kiss my booty? Yeah, Josh, it's great. I'm sorry. I don't. But that was good, though. That was a good segue.
Yeah,
that was very nice. But yeah, I think the problem for us is that we grew up on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yeah.
And that's not a problem. But the point is that what it did is I mean, not just Star Trek. Because I think about the shows that I liked growing up.
Yeah.
And it's things like Knight Rider.
Mm-hmm.
Were Michael Knight and Kit clearly good guys? Yes. And did they clearly get along? Yes. I mean, did they kind of pick at each other? Yes. But they were friends. You know they were buds.
Yeah.
What about Quantum Leap?
Oh, yeah.
Now, for as much as sometimes Sam would get flabbergasted by Al's womanizing ways,
Yeah.
and for as much as Al would sometimes just not understand at all why Sam wasn't, jumping all over that lady,
Yeah.
they were clearly friends, and
Right.
there was never a single episode where it's like, this week Sam and Al aren't talking because they're mad at each other over
drama
a disagreement. But somehow Al still has to tell Sam what he's there to do. No, there was none of that. And then in Star Trek: The Next Generation, was there ever really a time when the main characters were not getting along that wasn't caused by some alien thingamajig?
No, not really, no.
No. I mean, the closest you get, spoiler alert, is there's a little bit of awkwardness between Riker and Worf.
Yeah, yeah.
But that was basically in All Good Things.
Yeah. And it was just awkwardness.
Exactly.
They didn't hate each other.
Yeah. Now, the future part of All
They
Good Things did allow for a little bit of that.
But that was some of that more manipulation as you were talking about.
Exactly. Yes. So, by and large, it's like they were pals.
Yeah.
It's like that was one of the things that I did not like about DS9 initially, was that you had the Starfleet folks and you had the Bajoran folks, and they were kind of, the Starfleet folks were like, we're cool, we're friends, let's be friends. And the Bajorans were like, but there, So the hostility was coming from one direction.
Yeah.
But still, I didn't like that they didn't get along. But then pretty soon they were getting along, and all things were fine.
Yeah. I mean, I can see where somebody is like, okay, that's a good storytelling device that, we can take our main characters and have conflict between them. But I just don't care for that very much. Like, I mean, we see enough of that in real life.
Yeah.
And again, we've talked about this before on the podcast several times. Escapism. It's all about escapism.
That's right.
And like for example, could you imagine if there was a Back to the Future Part 4 and Marty and Doc had some kind of big beef between each other for half the movie? It's like that's wrong.
No, I don't want that at all. Well, I mean it boggles my mind. You think about something like Ghostbusters. It's like in the first two Ghostbusters movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did sometimes Ray's innocent, naive, childlike, qualities, not make him and let's say why can I not think of Bill Murray's character's name?
Peter?
Yeah, Peter Venkman. Maybe they didn't see eye to eye on stuff. Maybe it's luck. Maybe it's karma. It's like they disagreed. Everyone's got a third mortgage, Ray. But they were still allies.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, Peter and Ray aren't speaking.
Yeah.
It was just, and so I'm okay with conflict like that, where they have the same goals, they're heading the same direction. Sometimes they just have differences about how to do it. Again, you get that in Star Trek.
Yeah. Well, and I'm okay with say the first Avengers movie.
Yeah.
Where they don't really get along that well when they're trying to get together.
Right.
But eventually, towards the end of the movie, they work that
Yep.
out. And then in Civil War, it's like that just falls apart.
And that's the thing. I watched Civil War in the theater, and I liked it well enough, you know. And we've got it on the Blu-ray.
And I've only seen it the once.
And so Josh only seen it once. I've got it on Blu-ray, and I've watched maybe a third of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just haven't finished it.
Yeah.
And it's like, because I don't want to see them fighting again. For as much as the fight scene, the big one at the airport, was cool and was well done and all of that, I just, you know, I didn't love it in the Avengers, but from a story standpoint, it made sense.
Yeah.
So I can accept it that, okay, these are very strong personalities, and they're going to have some conflicts because they don't have this sort of shared history of working together, or they all went to Starfleet Academy, and even if they didn't know each other, they've got these shared. I mean, Steve Rogers was a guy from the 40s,
Right.
and Tony Stark is a millionaire, playboy, philanthropist, crime fighter, and then Thor's an alien. And Hulk's the dude that gets mad and turns green, but apparently he's always angry. Anyway, don't get me started on I'm always angry. But so it's like, okay, so they're very different. I get that. But then in the second movie, they were fighting again.
Yep.
And then in Civil War, they were fighting again.
Yep.
And it's like, it makes me less excited to watch Marvel movies because it's like, I don't want to watch.
Gonna be fighting.
I just don't want to watch the good guys fight.
Yeah.
I want them to team up, as they're supposed to, against evil.
Yeah, right.
Against the forces of darkness, not against each other.
Right.
So I'm really hoping. That's part of why I'm excited about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Yeah.
Because I don't expect any of that kind of tomfoolery in that
I bet
movie.
they fight.
Well,
I bet there's one person who betrays the
everybody,
entire team.
and it's Rocket Raccoon.
Right.
He's like, I needed some money. What? Or maybe it's Drax. I hope to pay a trade you all for money. Ha ha ha. But no, see, it's like, so I'm looking forward to that because I don't expect there to be that kind of drama. And I'm hoping that with Civil War, they got it out of their system so that when we actually get to the next Avengers movie with the Infinity War and that, okay, we can be done with this. Obviously, you've got to have part of the next one where they finally come together again.
Yeah.
Because Civil War left them in disarray. And so they come together, and then once they come together for the last two movies that they're doing as a group, don't have them fighting with one another anymore. Let them finally be who I want them to be. Because it's like when the first Avengers movie ends, it's like, that's great, they're a team, they're going to work together. And then the second movie comes up, it's like they're still fighting with each other. The beginning of it's like, it's all cool, and they're having fun. And it's like the beginning of episode 3. They're having a battle, but they're, cracking jokes and cracking wise and all that. And then they start, they disagree about Ultron, and they're fighting about whether to put Jarvis in the suit and
Yep.
So I don't like it.
I don't either.
But anyway, Rebels. Yes. So we are here to talk about, as we say, 0 Hour. The
season finale.
Season finale, season 3. Now we are recording this much later after it's been aired. It aired like at the end of March, and we are recording this on April technically it's about to be the 16th, but right now it's April 15th. So it's almost Easter Sunday, interestingly enough.
And we should also note that this is the second to last season.
That's where I was going with this. Because if we had recorded this episode directly after the 0 Hour aired, we would not be able to share with you and then discuss within this context this fact, which is that today they confirmed that season 4 of Rebels will be the last season of Rebels.
Because Celebration was this weekend.
Yes.
And we will be talking about some more things.
Celebration.
That.
Yes, so we were there. No, we weren't. No.
We could have gone, though. It's only like 12 hours away from us.
It's about as close as it's going to get, because it's not like they're going to put one in Alabama.
No.
The next celebration is in Birmingham, Alabama. What? I don't understand.
Well, I guess it's possible that they could do one in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I doubt they would, though.
No.
Because, Atlanta's not exactly a resort town.
No, and I don't think Disney has any power there.
Probably
it's controlled by the Hutts. Disney's got some clout in Orlando.
Right.
They've got a few things going on there. The mouse is like, yo, clear out. We're going to do it right here. It's like if Mickey Mouse walks up into the land, he's like, "We're gonna do it right here." Then everybody's like, "Beat that mouse! Beat that mouse! Set him on fire! Put him under the bridge! Burn the bridge down using the mouse fire!" Goofy shows up. Wow, I can't believe it. He goes back and he tells Donald. Donald, comes with like a baseball bat with like spikes sticking out. He's like, "Batter up!" I don't know where this is going. Then they start fighting with each other about how to. Yeah. And then it's like the Marvel thing, It's Minnie Mouse is like punching Daisy in the throat. The characters from Tron show up and like, "Where's our third movie? Darn it!"
Third movie.
Oh, that'd be kind of fun. Scrooge McDuck's like, "Everybody calm down. That's too much. It's just too much. I'm gonna go over to Alabama and go fishing with my good buddy Ewan McGregor, because he likes fishing, don't you, from Alabama?" Oh, I love it. That's great. Love catfish. Anyway, yeah. So I think that's why they did it down in Orlando. Cause Mickey's like, "This is my town." Right. "No, your town's mine."
It's actually a pretty good impression.
Thank you. Good old Mickey. Except I don't think he would typically say things like that. "You get in here and make me a sandwich." It's like, I don't think it's the kind of stuff that Mickey would do. Oh, goodness. I'm going to drink a little Dr. Pepper.
Oh, man.
All right. So where were we? Oh, yes, Rebels. Yes. So this is going to be we're only going to have 4 seasons, which is good.
Yeah.
One of the things we pointed out, and others have pointed out as well, is that it seems like with this season, sometimes we were just marking time. Like they were just like, okay, well, this is just kind of happening.
Yeah.
And so maybe with knowing they've got 1 season left to get us probably to Rogue One, I would imagine. Maybe to episode 4.
Yeah.
Then that's good.
They've also talked about, this was a thing that was talked about today at Celebration, that the next season of Rebels will be serialized.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it will go from one to the next.
That's interesting because as I was watching 0 Hour, I'd actually thought about that. It's like, I wonder what it would be like if they said, we're going to tell one big story over the last season. And so, hey, turns out that we're thinking the same things.
Yep.
Me and the story group. Yep.
All right. Actually, I think that's probably false.
What? That I'm thinking the same things?
Yeah, that you're thinking the same things.
You're probably right.
Because I think they're totally different.
Yep. Well, then. So, what we're going to do, unless there's anything we need to do first, is we're going to begin, although we did have our little discussion about Marvel, we're going to begin by talking about the episode.
Okay.
And then we will talk about do we want to do the email next?
We'll do the email next.
Do the email. We got an email. Guess who?
Guess who?
Who you think wrote us an email?
Good old Hugh
I
James.
was just saying, let me give you a hint. It might involve booties that are large. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, so we'll do the email.
Yeah.
And then we will talk about
we'll talk about some of the things at Celebration. And in particular,
yes,
the trailer for Star Wars Episode
8, The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Yep. So again, these are the kinds of things that we would not have been able to do had we recorded this earlier.
Exactly.
So it all works out.
That's why we do that.
That's right, because we know. We just have a sense.
Some news is coming.
Some news is coming. Oh, how about that? Instead of, somebody's coming. The walls in the 5th precinct were bleeding. Like that guy. It's like, what's his story? Does he have like a wife at home? Is he a granddad already? What does he think about the bleeding? Is he a religious man? Is he not? I'm just curious about that. What's that guy's story? So that's what we're gonna do. So that's the order of operations, if you will.
Yeah.
So we're actually going to read from the Star Wars Rebels wiki summary, because it's the only one that's of a decent length, as in not like too long.
Yeah.
So And we're just kind of gonna talk about the things that we thought about as we watched the episode and sort of a writing. It would be fun at some point to do a commentary of track on some of these, like just to riff track it, if you will.
Yeah,
but
that would be good.
All right, so we begin. Are you ready, or do I need to let you look through the news?
I'm making sure that I didn't miss anything.
Okay, I'll vamp for a minute while you make sure that
there is a season 4 trailer.
Oh, really?
Of Rebels, so I wonder if we should watch that.
Yeah,
too.
that's what we'll pause and we'll watch it,
Okay.
and then when we do that.
That's what we're sure, because I thought I'd actually close something out of my tabs that I had up here.
If you want a tab, we can't give you a tab until you pay for something.
Tab, you gotta pay for it.
that's it. Yeah. No, you want Pepsi free?
That's it.
Pepsi free. You want Pepsi? You got to pay for it. Just give me a tab. You can't give me a tab unless you order something. How about you give me something without any sugar in it? I always thought it was interesting that he emphasized the end, without any sugar in it. And then he's like, here's some coffee.
Yeah.
And I was like, why did he give him money when he gave him coffee and money? I don't get it. But it's because he was giving him change. But yeah.
That's right.
Tab, see?
Yep.
Yeah. It's a block past Maple. John F. Kennedy
John
Drive.
F. Kennedy Drive.
Who the stink is John F. Kennedy? Back to the Future.
Yep.
It's very good.
That movie.
Oh, that movie. Oh, yes. All right, so are we ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay, here we go. Thrawn arrives. Shut up, Thrawn. Thrawn arrives on Lothal with some urgent news. Taking it up in...
I figured it all out.
Yes. Talk about seeing the hand. Taking it up in secrecy, he briefs Governor Price, Admiral Constantine, which I thought was a very real-world name for him. So something about it's like, in a world of Thrawns and didgeridoos and Jar Jar Binkses, it's like, there's Constantine.
Yeah.
Yeah, Constantine, like
Luke.
Like Luke, Constantine. Yeah, it's like Luke, Leia, and Constantine are like the 3 normal names. It's not like Wedge is a normal name.
No.
I mean, it's like you've got Jan Dodonna, but Jan's a girl's name.
Yeah.
And he's a guy, so that makes it work.
Yeah.
They should have ladies named Ralph. And it's okay. No, it's fine. It's a girl's name in reality, so that makes it okay. I mean, it's a boy's name, but she's a girl named Ralph.
Yeah.
Girl named Sue.
Yeah, boy named
Sue. That's what. Because a girl named Sue wouldn't be worthy of a song.
No.
Unless it was Bobby Sue. Bobby Sue. You don't know that?
That's not the name. That's not that song.
Yeah.
That's not how that goes.
How's it go?
I'm trying to think. It's not Bobby Sue.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
Well, what do you think I'm thinking of?
Sing it again.
Bobby Sue. There's no love is true. One day I'm gonna marry you. It's an Elk Ridge Boys song.
Well, maybe it is.
Were you thinking of Elvira?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Heart's on fire for copyright
I can't remember the
violations.
name of the song that I'm trying to think of.
What's it about?
I can't remember. It's just something like that. It's like a girl's name.
And
Sarah. No.
Storms are brewing.
Let's get on with it.
Oh, it could be Sarah Smile. No. Okay, fine. You don't want to go down this rabbit hole of songs about girls' names?
No.
Because there's I'm gonna take you by surprise and make you realize, Amanda. That actually kind of sounds like it might be a song about improper behavior that she's not down for.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially that I'm gonna take you by surprise and make you realize. Anyway, here we go. So Governor Price, a.k.a. Iriana Spalco, Constantine, and Grand Moff Tarkin, via hologram, Thrawn is going to reveal to them his findings. He has discovered the rebels' plan to assault their Imperial TIE Defender factory on Lothal. He's also received word from his spies that General Dodonna's fleet, or Dodonna, as he liked to call it, he put the I'm being ethnic, the Pakistan kind of thing in there, and I'm like, is Dodonna like an ethnic name in the Star Wars universe?
I guess.
Like, I want some beef, and I want a large blow-up doll of Darth Vader, and I want a picture of Jan Dodonna. Like, what? It's like Giada De Laurentiis on Cooking Channel. She's like, yeah, I got some of this and got some of that, and I got some Parmigiano Reggiano. It's like, whoa.
Where'd that
Where'd that come from? And it's like, well, why don't you do that for every single possible thing? It's like, I've got the spaghetti, and then I've got the tacos. I mean, it's like, come on now, consistency. But anyway.
See, like, I feel weird about that, too. Like, because, like, say you say Japanese names or something. Like, if you, like we would say, like, the lady who composed the music for Final Fantasy 15, Yoko Shimomura.
Right.
Well, the way it's actually pronounced is Yoko Shimomura.
Yeah,
Shimomura. Like with the kind of
Mura.
Yeah, the kind of roll of the R, and like it's like when I think about that, like I'm like, okay, am I supposed to say it like I would normally say it,
right?
Or should I say it how it's actually
how she pronounces her name, right?
Which one?
Yeah,
do you
because
do?
on the one hand, you want to pronounce somebody's name
correct
the way their name is pronounced,
right?
In the same way that it's like people look at my name and they say Wamath or Weymouth, or I've even gotten Woman. A surprisingly significant number of times, people have looked at my name, Weymouth, and said the word that came out of their mouth when they saw my name was woman. How do you get an N sound out of TH? It doesn't make any sense. So I'm down with the plight of that.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, it feels sometimes pretentious.
Right, exactly.
To switch over
like
to
what
the
you're
accent,
talking about with the Gia lady.
Right, the Gia lady.
The Gia lady.
That's look, it's the Gia lady. She's on television. Are you bringing this horrible van to our car show? That is a reference to something that happened 2 weeks ago that y'all don't know nothing about. There's an insult to every vehicle ever made. You get it out of here. It's not acceptable. I'm gonna tell Mickey Mouse he's gonna come over here. He's gonna beat you down. So, where was I at? Jan Dodana. Yeah. So it's like, would you say that? Because the thing is, it's like, okay, go back to Parmigiano Reggiano, right? That's not somebody's name.
No,
it's not like Bob Parmesan, right? So
yeah.
So it's like, well, are you afraid that you're going to insult the cheese if you don't pronounce its name right?
Yeah, it's like if I go to Olive Garden and. I mean, I'm not going to say and put extra Parmesan on it.
Exactly.
It's like I'm not going to launch full Italian.
Right.
Like I just put some Parmesan cheese on there.
Yeah, I want some of that Parmesan. I want some of that Parmesan cheese on there.
Parmesan.
Put some Parmesan cheese on there. Now, you just keep spinning that little thing and spitting it out in the little giblets, and I'll tell you when to stop. Don't expect that just because I ain't said whoa or stop it or I'm still ready and I just forgot. Okay, this isn't like a courtesy thing.
Does anybody outside of the South know about ant?
Everybody's like, what? What is ant? Did y'all just like have something in your throat?
No, the ank is two things. Ank is telling a child not to do something and telling a dog not to do something.
Exactly. Which is why I try not to use it on Nigel, because it's like I don't like using the dog thing on the Nigel, but sometimes it comes out.
Yeah.
It just comes out. Yeah. And I certainly wouldn't want to do that with a nice waiter or waitress at Olive Garden.
Right.
Oh, he's done. He don't want any more cheese. I'll stop then. Be like, hey, I'm gonna put some Parmesan cheese on your plate. You want me to do that for you? Yeah, I love me some good old Parmesan. So if you could put some on there, that'd be great. You just keep on going till I tell you stop, and I tell you stop. Don't you think I ain't forgot about you? I ain't forgot about you. I'm done. Okay, I'll go away.
It's like
everybody's listeners like,
what in the what's he talking about?
It's like I'm getting a very interesting mental image of how every Olive Garden in the South works.
It's like they make buzzer sounds with their mouth in the South.
They make the mouth sound and the South sound. It's like, I go to an Olive Garden and it's like, there's tables and people are like, welcome to Olive Garden. Apparently in the South, they're like, hey, y'all come on, get you some Italian food.
Well,
yeah. Get you some good
far
Italian.
off.
That's exactly right. Yeah, we love it. Yeah. So, Jandodana.
Yeah.
But see, the thing is, Thrawn is a hypocrite, or actually, you cannot.
Thrawn's a moron.
Well, that too. No, he's brilliant. If you'd studied art like he did, you'd know that this map isn't as good as this other map that shows there's a thing there.
Right.
So that's just because you should really study art. But anyway, let's see. What was I going to say? Well, it just left my head.
Not good.
Not good. No. No. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say this. Sometimes people are too quick to call the hypocrisy claim. And it's like, just because someone is inconsistent does not necessarily mean they're a hypocrite.
Right.
Because they may be inconsistent without realizing it.
Sure.
Hypocrisy is intentional inconsistency. And so I'm not saying that he's a hypocrite, Thrawn, but he is inconsistent because apparently he's all like Dodona, but then Chem Syndulla and Hera Syndulla, and that's not how they say their name.
Mm-mm.
So it's like, well, if you care about the one, shouldn't you care about the other? You blue-skinned, red-eyed freak. But he knows everything, so leave him alone.
Smart guy.
That's right. So anyway, Dodonna's fleet is en route, according to his spies, to reinforce Phoenix Squadron. But the Imperials had not yet discovered where the base is, the Rebel base. That's what it's all about, it's around the Rebel base. Governor Price found a coordinated attack by multiple Rebel cells unprecedented, but that was also, at that moment, Thrawn... this says, but was also the moment that Thrawn had been waiting for to wipe out the rebellion. Okay. Anyway. Meanwhile, using a mouse droid, listening in is Mr. Kallus. So we're going to see Kallus kind of. He's already the fulcrum here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're not seeing him change at this point, but he's definitely got some story going on here.
Right.
And I will say, for as much as we have been kind of on the season. I
like that.
I really like Kallus and what they've done with him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really cool. So anyway, so he's got his little mouse droid using as a spy, and he spies on what's going on. He hears it, and so he heads for Ezra's tower, which is interesting. He's going back to Ezra's old tower, where he has his fulcrum message. But before he can get out the details, Thrawn shows up.
Because he got it figured out.
That's right. And so he makes the little hologram red, and he's like, oh, by the twin moons of Grapthar's hammer, I have the power. That is your code signal, isn't it, Kallus? You're such a disappointment. I'm going to kill everyone that you love. I'm going to beat you senseless, and I'm going to enjoy doing all of it because I might be a freak you don't know. And so let's fight a little bit. And so they fight a little bit.
Yeah.
And at first, Kallus is kind of getting whooped up on a little bit, and Thrawn's like, oh, your skills are pretty good for the training you've had, but I have the better training. And then like Kallus does like a sweep kick and like knocks him on his feet, and they fight a little bit more. It's like, yeah, get it, Kallus. And what does Kallus say to Thrawn? And I clapped for this moment. He says, you talk too much.
Yeah.
I was like, that's right. But what you should have said is, and too slowly.
Right. Way too slow.
You talk too much and you talk too slowly. You need to speed up and say less. And get a different voice actor.
Right.
No
offense to that guy.
No offense to Mr. Mickelson in his acting ability. For me, as we've said before, I just don't feel like his voice is right for what I've pictured Thrawn to be. But I know my headcanon is not canon. No. But it is what it is. So anyway.
Well, and I think it's not just headcanon.
Yeah.
It's like, Thrawn has been voiced before.
Yes.
In the TIE Fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And it did not sound like that. It sounded much more...
over there and fetch me a bottle of water and some churros.
In fact, here's what Thrawn sounded like in TIE Fighter.
Yep. Let me make a note that we're going to do that right here.
This rebel stronghold has no hope of escape. Commence the attack. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so see that, and so I guess maybe because that's what we heard as that became normal for us for Thrawn.
Yeah,
and so this is just not quite the same. But anyway, so they have a fist fight, but eventually the Kallus is overpowered, and so Thrawn is going to let Kallus see the defeat, and yeah, and this is where he goes and he interrogates him. And again, here's Thrawn's brilliance, right? He's like, so this is the trajectory of General Dodonna's fleet.
Uh-huh.
But this is the trajectory of the signal you send. And if you put them together, then... And Kallus is like, nope, no planet there. Nope, nothing to see there. Move along. And then he's like, oh, but if only you studied art, it would teach you so many things. And then he gives some gobbledygook garbage about some people that are local and they have this thing in the circle deal or something. And that is Atolon, and that is where they are. If only you had studied and gone to your art classes. But you were too busy staying in the dorms, playing your video games, thinking, oh, this won't matter. This is just an elective. But now you're the one on the floor, and I'm the one that's going to win. And what that teaches us is that art class is for winners, and staying in the dorm is for losers like you. And your mutton chops are hideous. If you studied art, you would know how ugly your facial hair is.
Ugly you are.
That's right. But you don't. You just stayed in your dorm room and played Call of Duty Red Alert. Not Call of Duty.
Red Alert.
Well, what's the? It's not Call of Duty Red Alert. It's
Which one?
you know the real time the strategy game with the hell marks.
Oh, that's red. That's Red Alert.
Red Alert. But there was like a
Command and Conquer.
Yes, you were too busy staying in your dorm room. Your dorm room. That's what it really
Your
is.
dumb room
It
with
was
your
the
dumb
room.
face.
Your dumb face
mutton
with Your
chops.
dumb mutton chops playing your dumb games. Meanwhile, I have all the women. Actually, that's not true. But anyway, because it takes way too long to go on a date. Your dress looks fetching, and let me tell you why. I gotta go now. I went out with that Thrawn Mithrado guy. He's a jerk. Man, I couldn't even get past the first 10 minutes of him. He's a loser. Let me tell you right now. Anyway, let's go to the Olive Garden. Down in Alabama. Meanwhile, on Atalon, Phoenix Squadron. Let's see, but this is a little bit more like how we used to do the
It's
show.
true.
It's a little old school, Mary Jo. Because we talk about it and we make fun. But out of love. It's out of the love.
Sure it is.
Yeah, sure. Meanwhile, on Avatar, meanwhile on Avalon,
Avatar planet.
on Avatar planet,
The blue people.
the really tall blue people are hugging trees. And then the dinosaurs came, and then they turned into oil, and then the Arabs got all the oil, and then she started doing her hair differently.
What?
That's from one of the airplane movies.
Oh.
The tall guy that was always like the assistant in the
Yeah.
traffic control tower.
Yeah.
Simmons, maybe was that his name? No, something like that. Anyway, that was one of his things. It's like, tell me the story from the beginning. Well, first the earth cooled, and then the dinosaurs came. And then they got big and fat, and they turned into oil, and then the Arabs bought the oil. Jacobs, that was his name. Yeah, he's great. Anyway, meanwhile, on Atalon, Phoenix Squadron is preparing for their attack on Lothal. However, upon General Dodonna's arrival, Callus, his partial transmission does reach them. And so they now realize that Thrawn knows. That's about all it's like. Thrawn knows, and it cuts off, but that's it. So unfortunately, Callus, unlike some people, chooses to begin his message with the most important words.
Yeah.
It's supposed to like, what you need to know is, it cuts off.
Yeah.
He's like, Thrawn knows.
Yeah.
There. Could have been a 2-word message. And then that's it. Thrawn knows. Hang up the phone. Anyway, so the only thing, that he was able to send out was Thrawn knows. We know that, computer. They immediately suspect that Thrawn knew. Well, yeah, of course, where they were. And it was confirmed when they received word from Ryder Azadi that the Imperial fleet over Lothal had just left. The rebels were forced to scrub their mission and evacuate Chopper Base, just as Imperial Star Destroyers emerge from hyperspace. So, General Dodonna's fleet attempts to escape, but they are pulled out of hyperspace by, ladies and gentlemen, they are canon 2 interdictor cruisers.
Yep. There's a lot of ship stuff
Yes.
that turned out to be canon, and some things that just straight up aren't. Like, okay, we got interdictor cruisers.
Yep.
We got Y-wings are bombers.
Yep.
Are actually bombers.
Throwing bombs down.
Throwing
even.
bombs down.
Yes.
But then, like, apparently A-wings ain't crap in,
Yeah. And it's like,
in actual canon.
look, y'all, we've done flown A-Wings.
Yeah, we know.
Like you said, you're like, those A-Wings would be wrecking shop all over these TIE fighters.
Yeah, like, I mean, straight up. In that battle,
Mhm.
with what they were fighting, because I think there were some TIE bombers
Yep.
and there were some normal TIE fighters.
Yep.
Like, if you think about it in terms of X-Wing versus TIE fighter,
Right.
or X-Wing or TIE fighter,
Mm.
like, an A-Wing was like one of the best ships you could get.
Yeah.
Like, if you really wanted to destroy stuff,
Mhm.
just utterly kill it, use
Just
an
get an
A-Wing.
Because it's going to be faster than
Mhm.
the TIEs. It's more maneuverable. It's
Yep.
got shields.
Yep.
Blasters are good. I mean, it doesn't have the heavy bombing capability like an A-wing. I
No,
mean, like
but
a
it can still
Y-wing.
shoot torpedoes.
Exactly. And in a snub fight battle, when you're going up against other ships, like other fighter ships, then the bombs thing isn't really a big deal. That's for capital ships or for ground bombardment. So if you're just going up against like TIE fighters, then an A-wing, yeah, that's what you go with.
Right.
As we've said before, though, what I want to see is some gunboats. I want some Imperial gunboats up in the house.
Yeah, the gunboats were cool.
And they were pretty heavy. I mean, because they had shields, they had hyperdrives. They were pretty fast. I mean, if you were on the Imperial side of things and you were trying to get something done, a gunboat was a good thing to have.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll show up at some point.
Gunboats, TIE Advanced.
Yep.
TIE Defenders.
Yep.
Interceptors were good.
Yeah.
They didn't have any shields.
Yeah.
But they were fast.
Yep. And that'll get you a lot, just having the speed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, anything but a TIE, I mean, just the rickety old plain old TIE fighter.
Yeah.
It's like, why don't you go out and get
bomber.
killed?
If you were a TIE bomber, that was just
It's like, no.
Because you would see, it would be bad when you were playing TIE fighter and you were in a TIE bomber.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, for that mission, it's scripted that at some point, like, a whole bunch of A-Wings and X-Wings are going to show up.
It's like, no.
Like, oh, well, I'm
never
dead.
work. And even like some of the missions where it's like, you've got to protect the TIE bombers while they do their bombing run. It's like, doo-doo.
Yeah.
It's like having to babysit like a accident-prone child.
Right.
It's like, this is not going to end up well. It's not going to turn out well. So yeah, so there were some X-Wing TIE fighter stuff that was right, and then some things it's like, come on now. You gotta get that right.
Well, and back in Clone Wars, we got Z-95 Headhunters.
Yep.
That were first canon there.
Yep.
Or first brought into the EU there.
Mm-hmm. And they're beautiful ships.
They're good ships.
I like them. I mean, they're not. I still don't think they're as cool as ARC 170s.
No.
And that's the thing. ARC 170s don't get no love.
No.
Because like they didn't show up in the Clone Wars cartoon show much, which they really, it makes sense that they wouldn't because they seem to be something that came in pretty late in the Clone Wars. But we only saw them in one episode. I think it was only one. And it's like, for as much as since then sometimes they'll be like, hey, let's throw something from like the the prequel era in the original trilogy era, like, some old wrecked thing. Yeah. I ain't seen no old ARC 170.
No.
I'm like, come on now. I love those ships.
Yeah, they're good ships.
Anyway, so let's see. Where were we? Yes, so the Imperial Interdictor cruisers come in. And it's funny, they didn't explain, but I'm like, well, see, I mean, they mentioned the gravity wells. I'm like, yeah, see, y'all, because you can't go into hyperspace inside a gravity well. And so when the Interdictor cruiser gravity well generated gravity well, then it prevents you from being able to go into hyperspace. And if you're in hyperspace and you get too close to you, come right out.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Technical manual. Yeah. So, Thrawn's ship arrives and contacts Chopper Base. And this is where, like, this is the most, like, just jerkish Thrawn has been thus far that I've seen. Because, like, usually it's like, I'm cold and detached and a little bored and that man is ugly and I figured you out. But here he's like, I'm sorry, I'm not taking surrenders at this time. I'm going to show you that how bad defeat can be, and that I will be the one that brings it crushing down upon you. I'm like, ooh, Thrawn talking smack.
Yeah.
It was a different kind of, thing for him. And, Hera's basically like, yeah, whatever, you and what army? And he's like, this one.
This one I've got behind me.
All these people that I have control over. Yeah. So, anyway, after this brief conversation with Thrawn, and, she gives him the bird. No, not really. So Hera conjures up a plan to call for reinforcements and help them escape. She suggests that if they can disable one of the interdictors, they would have a chance to allow one ship to escape. Hera volunteers Ezra and Kanan to take the Gauntlet fighter, but because she says, I'm not going, and y'all are going to go, and he's like, I can't leave you. Isn't that what Kanan says? Like, I don't want to leave you or something like that. And she says, but you're the Jedi, you'll have the best chance of success. And so that sounds good, but the Kanan's like, yeah, but I've got to go and find my friend to get some help.
Yeah.
And she's like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, I got to do it. Okay. So Ezra's going to go, accompanied by Mr. Chopper.
Right.
So what were you thinking at this point of the episode?
In what way?
Just this is actually...
Yeah, it was actually...
I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, I'm not hating this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's paced well. Everything's making sense.
And part of that's probably because it was a two-parter.
Yeah.
And like, so they knew we don't have to rush stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We can fully flesh out ideas.
Yep.
Because they'll pay off in the next episode.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, and that feeling I think persisted throughout the whole thing. It's like, yeah, there wasn't really anything that I'm like, well, y'all just kind of rushed through that.
Yeah. Like, and that's the thing. Like, Clone Wars was much better paced.
Yes.
Like, just all around. I mean, because there were several multi-part episodes of Clone Wars, but even one-off episodes or episode like, because lots and lots of episodes were multi-part in Clone Wars that didn't specifically say this is part 2 of this thing.
Right.
Like, you know, it was just the 2 episodes were connected, and hope you watched the one before it to know what's going on in this one.
Yeah.
But even its one-off episodes though were, I don't know, they're just, to me, better paced than anything in Rebels.
Well, like the one, I forgot the name of the episode, but the Seven Samurai homage.
Yeah, it's the one I was thinking of.
It's like, that is a one-off episode, but very well paced.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I wonder if, I'd have to look it up and see if the running time was different. Because, I mean, Disney put
That's
so many
quite
commercials
possible.
in there.
Yeah, for their own crap.
Yeah, which still makes sense. Well, actually, nowadays, it's partially for their own stuff, and then it's for, like, all the random kitty stuff. Like, look, I've got these rings that have little dogs inside them. It's like, what?
Yeah, look, I've got this dog thing that its eyes light up.
When you push the nose, your touch activates it and makes it work. It's like, oh, my touch does, huh? Yeah. You know, or then there was the one that it's like when we're beginning to watch part 1, you know, you have the little opening and although it didn't go down, and then it's like, we'll be right back. And then there was like a 2-minute trailer for the episode we were watching.
Yeah.
It's like, what, Disney? Now that's really pointless. And then there was the Pokemon. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like trying to really sell that Pokemon is freaking awesome.
There's
guys.
a Pokemon and Beyblade and Yokai Watch.
Yokai Watch.
All together in one anime block. Word. I'm like, yeah. And they didn't say word, but it was, because it was even heavier than word, man.
Right.
It was yeah, oh yeah. So that was pimp stuff, yeah.
You remember when Disney Channel didn't have no commercials?
Oh, I do. It was great.
Like, the only time they had commercials was in between the shows.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fantastic.
And then it would go, because it had that song. You know?
Yep.
Remember the one where it's like Mickey put his record on a record player?
Yeah.
And it had the ears, and so they go, yeah, that's good stuff. Yep.
Back when Disney Channel was cool.
Yeah, that's right. But now Disney XD is like the weird one. Remember the weird one was like where like the kids eating, like strangely animated kids eating like food?
Yeah.
And it was just a Disney XD promo. And we're like, everybody's just gotten weird.
Yeah.
And you were like, it's like everybody's high.
Yeah, everybody's on a constant acid trip.
Uh-huh. Yep, exactly. But so I do wonder if the fact that they've got fewer minutes, I wonder if they have fewer minutes per episode.
Yeah,
and
it's possible.
yeah, that might make a difference. But yeah, so this was all, I'm like, yeah, I'm digging this. This is good. And of course, we figured that, that Kanan was going out into the desert to meet up with the Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course he was. The Bendu.
Bendu.
Yeah, everybody's people on on YouTube comment section getting excited about the Bendu, but we'll get there. Excuse me. We'll probably get there actually here in a minute because when he starts talking, it'll probably make sense for us to mention some of those things a little bit.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, so the Ghost and the Gauntlet show up with the fleet, just as Commander Sato.
Sounds like the name of a story. The Ghost and the Gauntlet.
Ooh, it does, like an R.L. Stein book.
Right.
Some kind of like scary story.
The Haunted Gauntlet.
Yes, for elementary school kids. It's like 10 pages long. The Ghost and the Haunted Gauntlet.
10 pages of thrilling terror.
And it's like, and then there was dripping goo. Ooh, drippings goo.
Gross.
Lazy drippings with goo. No, Janos, not now. Not now. Oh, no, not yet. Not now.
Command me,
No. Oh, but I would. No. Everything you are doing is bad. No. I want you to know this. No. No.
You're like the buzzing of
No. Slides are available in the gift shop. No, they're not. No. Free parking? No. Oh, but I love you too.
All of this blackness.
What is blackness? How's the baby? Oh, goodness.
Many books to be the mother of a living God.
Yes, I've already heard this part. Yes. Sorrow, yes. That was great because it's like subtle.
Yeah.
Oh, Peter McNichol's brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Anyway, so where were we? I need to like have a list of them. So it's like, oh, we made a yonder quote. Let me pull them all up real quick.
Here they all are.
Here they all are, right here. Because almost everything he says is a good Janos quote.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, really. I can't think of anything he said. Oh, upper west side? It's like, that's good?
Yeah.
No, Dr. Redman, go. I think, yes, just go. Anyway, so the Ghost and the Gauntlet show up just as Commander Sato launches the first squad of fighters. And there was that point, somebody had said something earlier about like something that was like maybe General Dodonna, and we're like, yep, he's like, who's that? Or something like that. He'll survive. And we're like, yeah, he's in episode 4.
Yeah.
It's like one of the characters saying that. And then we get cut to Sato, and it was like, Sato was like, I don't think I'm going to be. Wait, that might not bode well for what's going to happen now. And sure enough,
yep,
we're going to have to say goodbye to Sato.
That's right.
So Thrawn deploys his TIEs, his TIE fighters. The battle begins. Back on Atollon, Kanan goes to the Bendu to plead for help in fighting off the Empire. So Bendu's whole shtick here is, I'm the one in the middle. And I don't want everything to do with your human fight, Kanan Jarrus.
Yep.
Cut the commercial. Come back. What are you talking about? I don't want everything to do with your fight, Kanan Jarrus. I'm the Bendu. I'm the one in the middle. And so that's kind of his deal. He's like, I'm not.
I even like how Kanan gets kind of fed up. He's like, yeah. I've heard this
you
before.
said
You're
that.
The one in the middle.
Yeah. I know. I'm like, right on, Kanan
There you
Jarrus.
go.
Right on, Kanan Jarrus. And so finally, let's see how the summary is. Yeah, and he says that, he says, Bendu, or the survey says, survey says, it's almost the sound, by the way.
It is. It's a buzzer.
It's like a buzzer. It's like a human buzzer. Bendu was furious that the rebellion had brought the war to his peaceful world and refuses to assist them in their fight. And so he says something about, I'm past your ability to die and things like that, you puny thing. I'm big monkey man. I'm a big ooh-ooh. And then finally, Kanan is like, yeah, I get that. But and I forgot how he puts it. It's a great little speech. Because he's like, I used to think the same way you did, that the universe could just go on without me and I just wouldn't get involved. But I realized that, people were out there and they were suffering and they were dying. And if there was something that I could do about it to try to help it, I was going to do it and not just sit there and let everything burn.
Yep.
And we were both like,
yes,
right on.
Especially in spite of recent events.
Yes. Because of what is in the episode 8 trailer.
Right.
Spoiler warning. We'll talk more about the trailer in a minute, but spoiler warning, the big thing is that Luke supposedly says that he knows one truth, and that is that the Jedi Order has to end. And so everybody is at least all the YouTube comments I saw were jumping on the "this is so awesome" bandwagon and the Grey Jedi bandwagon. I'm like, y'all, that has never been a canon concept. It has never been a canon term.
Yeah.
If something like that does happen, then maybe it will be. But right now, it is not. So, and it's just the fact that all these people are jumping on like, yeah, it's the Grey Jedi. They're doing the Grey Jedi thing. It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
you don't know that they are. That was
it's
never
like
a
you
thing.
read that out of some freaking book that's no longer canon.
Yeah. So there's no guarantee that it'll be brought in. So why would you speak about it as though it were already a thing?
Right.
It was something that some writer cooked up somewhere, and it still doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
But that's. Yeah, well, so we'll get into the details of that. But so, and I actually saw somebody make a comment like saying, yay, the Jedi will be no more, and now it will be the Order of the Bendu. And they even like mentioned this, being in the middle. And again, I'm going to get ahead of myself if I'm not careful. But I just want to be like, what do you think that means? Like what would that be if the Jedi have to end, and if it's the way of the Bendu, and it's the light and the dark? What's the advantage of that? And what's crazy is, it seems like this concept of the Grey Jedi is really, for a lot of these people, the fascination and the main heart of the concept is that means they can do stuff like Force lightning.
Yeah.
Because I saw a comment that was like, so maybe we'll get to see some Jedi having some Force lightning battles. I'm like, that's really first.
And what's funny is like it's all also got to do with an extreme want for an anti-hero.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They really want the anti-hero. Not thinking that George Lucas created Star Wars partially in response to the fact that that all that was going on in the 70s were anti-hero movies.
He's like, I want something that is clear good, clear evil.
Yep.
You know, heroes you can root for.
Exactly.
For kids.
Yep.
And so
I love that. Did you read his quote from Celebration?
No.
Where he was like, when he gets up there, he's like, I'm probably not supposed to say this, but he's like, I made these movies for 12-year-olds. He was like, that's what it always was. And I was like, yes!
That's awesome, George Lucas.
Yes,
see, and I'm fine
right.
with him saying that because I know there's still a significant bit of 12-year-old in me.
Sure,
absolutely. And I'm not embarrassed by that.
No.
And that's what that 12-year-old part of me is why I like Star Wars. I mean, there's deeper layers. I mean, as we talked about in the Clone Wars, I mean, on the Clone Cast a lot, there's depth in Star Wars.
Right.
But it's like it's delivered in a way that appeals to the 12-year-old.
Sure.
And so as an adult, I want Star Wars to continue to appeal to that 12-year-old in me.
I don't want Star Wars to appeal to the 33-year-old in me.
Yeah. Or the 39-year-old in me.
Yeah.
I want it to appeal to the 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Give me some concepts and ideas that the 30-some-odd-year-old
can relate to
and chew on and talk about, but make it something that the 12-year-old in me enjoys.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm afraid is being lost.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Not with Rebels so much.
No.
But I mean, for as much as I like Rogue One kind of it's like
Rogue One definitely appeals more to the 30-year-old side of me.
Yeah, especially the first half, because the second half still has enough kind of swashbucklingness that it kind of gets more 12-year-old, more traditional 12-year-old, maybe 13, 14-year-old, but still in that range. And that's why I like the second half of the movie better, and why I feel like the second half of the movie feels more like Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I think that's on purpose. Like, I think I'm hoping in anyway that's on purpose. It's like, and all the things aren't quite in place yet, and now here we go. We're getting there. We're building up to episode 4, and it's starting to feel more like it, and then episode 4, you know.
Because the thing is too, like with Rogue One, you've got a story reason for that.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, we've never, at least on film, seen any kind of what the galaxy was like between episodes 3 and 4.
Right.
I mean, we've seen that in Rebels, but again, Rebels is more directly for the 12-year-old and everything. So you're not going to see probably what in George Lucas's mind the galaxy was actually like.
Yeah.
Whereas Rogue One is probably more along those lines. It is a very dark time. It's a very, I think tonally, the first part of Rogue One follows episode 3 very well.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Like, it feels like this is the natural continuation of that.
Of what Palpatine and Anakin got going in episode 3. Yeah.
And then, like you said, about halfway through the movie, it's like, we're starting to build back up to the actual New Hope of this whole thing.
Because when you think about the episode 4 crawl begins with the rebellion has just scored its first victory against the Empire. That's what we're seeing.
Right.
We're seeing the first victory in episode 4 not from the Force side of things. That's in episode 4. That's in A New Hope. But from the actual sort of the physical battle, the Star Wars, traditional wars part of it, that's it.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's all changing right there as that's happening and gearing up for. It's almost like, okay, we're putting a little more gas in the engine. It's gonna chug it right along. It's just chugging along, and then it's and then there it is, and then boom, it's episode 4.
Yep.
So it's like that one. So it works, but it is definitely messing with the 12-year-old thing a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's why. I don't want 12-year-olds to be like, moral ambiguity and moral relativism is what, it's all about. What you ought to do is not try to be too good. Don't try to be too bad, it's like, again, we'll talk about this in a minute. light, dark, good, bad. Was there a good that's a balance of the good and bad? Well, then that's good. And you can't say then that good. You can't say good is a balance of good and bad because that makes no sense.
Right.
But
none at all.
ethics philosopher in me, ethics professor in me gives you an F.
Right.
If you're like, well, so what you need to do is you need to be a bit of good and a bit of bad. What? Now, do you say I need to do it because it's the right thing to do? Yeah. So you're saying the right thing or the good thing is a combination of good and bad. But then what is that good that's in your good and bad recipe that makes it good? Well, that would have to be a bit of good and bad. And this is going to be a recursive thing forever now. That makes no sense. You get an F.
Yep.
Write another paper. Do it right. You don't have to. You don't have to come down on, like, say, agreeing with me about what certain moral values a thing may or may not have, and this, that, and the, but at least have logic that makes sense and is coherent.
Got to get out of the circular reasoning.
Exactly, and so we'll revisit that. But so I guess that's, like you say, I think that's part of the hype about all this is that this desire for an anti-hero. It's kind of part of why people like Tony Stark, but even in the movies, he hasn't been as anti-hero as he was in the comics or has been. But still, that kind of bad boy sort of thing. And I mean, I get that appeal sometimes, but I like it when it's like, he's kind of a bad guy, but it's Han Solo, he's a scoundrel, but he's deep down, he's a good guy. You've just got to let that good guy flourish.
Right.
And so make it be a building progression kind of thing. Again, that's why George Lucas in the special editions had Greedo shoot first, because he felt like Han couldn't be redeemed if he started off that badly.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's that thing where it's like, for the people, they're like, yay, morally ambiguous heroes in the Star Wars universe. I'm like, you didn't ever really get the heart of Star Wars, did you? It just went right past you because you were too busy looking at Boba Fett.
Right.
And Darth Vader's cool suit.
There has been several things. There was even one thing in particular that I texted Nick as soon as I saw it. And, I mean, I was actually legit mad. And I probably shouldn't have been, about something so stupid. But, like, I just said to Nick, I was like, have these people never seen Star Wars? Right. Like, I mean, because I think this trailer in particular has just brought out the stupid in people. Like, I mean, just straight up stupid.
Yep. I mean, it's like, I can't look at these comment boards because, or comment sections, and it's just going to depress me as a Star Wars fan. It's like, my goodness.
Let's see. I'll read it because I've got it right here.
All right.
This is the text that I sent to Nick. This is the quote that I read. He says, it was a guy speculating on some stuff in the trailer, and he says, I've thought this since before The Force Awakens even came out. In Return of the Jedi, Luke didn't bring balance to the Force at all. He just made the light side of the scale heavier. True balance would be either an equal amount of light and dark or no light and dark, making the Force gray, so to speak. And then I said right under that, I said, have you even seen Star Wars? Holy freaking crap, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
and have you taken a logic course?
Right.
But,
like, I mean, the beginning of the thing, when, Luke didn't bring balance to the Force at all.
That's exactly right.
It's like, you're totally 100% right.
Because Anakin did it.
Right.
Read every single interview that Dave Filoni or George Lucas has ever done, and you will never find that contradicted, but you will find that on occasion explicitly confirmed, including one of the most recent, maybe not the most recent, interview that IGN did with Dave Filoni, was like, if you ask George Lucas will tell you, Anakin brought balance to the Force.
Yeah. It's over.
Done.
Over. That's it. That's the reason, like, with this trailer, and I know we're getting way too far into this right now, but like, that's the reason with the trailer, it's like, I just don't know that, I hope that they're not going in that direction in the whole, basically, we're going to erase everything that the prequel stood for, and that ultimately Episode 6, was the payoff for.
Right.
We're just going to throw that away and have it be, Rey's the actual one who's going to bring balance to the Force or whatever.
And what Luke and them did meant nothing.
Yeah, because that's just absolute crap.
Yeah.
I mean, again, like you said, you've got interviews with Dave Filoni, you've got interviews with George Lucas himself, who have said that Anakin Skywalker was the one who did that.
Right.
The prophecy came true.
Exactly, it did. It was fulfilled not exactly as the Jedi expected.
Exactly.
But it was fulfilled. by Anakin.
Yeah.
The chosen one. Qui-Gon was right.
Yeah.
When he said that he was the chosen one. Because the thing is, if you make Rey the chosen one, if you make Rey what it's all about, then really 1 through 6 and the Clone Wars are completely superfluous.
Yeah.
It's like there was some stuff that happened in the past. There were some bad guys, and the bad guys won for a while, and then they were defeated for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And, there was a cool guy and a ship or something. But the story really starts here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no.
That's
No.
crap.
I don't like that.
I seriously hope that the story group and all those people have enough clout and power
Yeah.
to be like, okay, no,
Not doing that.
no guy writing this movie. That's not
That's not
how
it
things
goes.
work.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you need to sit down with Dave Filoni, and you need
Yeah.
to sit down with George Lucas, and you need to get some idea about what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, and watch yourself.
Watch yourself.
Watch yourself. Going back to that text or that comment,
Yeah.
and then when the person was like, true balance would be an equal amount. And this is something that we dealt with on the Clone Wars, where it's like people seem to think that balance of the Force means
both.
a numerical, mathematical balance of light and dark, in the sense that you wanted to have an equal number of people doing good things and an equal number of people doing bad things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that's not necessarily what that means. One, because there is this question. And again, we're still getting too far ahead of ourselves. But
Well, I think this ties into the
yeah,
bending
it
thing,
is.
but go ahead.
Yeah. How about that for a segue?
Yeah.
But this question of to what extent, and this is something I texted Josh, I think maybe in response to that, it was like there is this question of to what extent does the light side and the dark side of the Force correspond to morally virtuous and morally vicious behavior.
Right.
It's like, do the qualities of the light side of the Force, are those equivalent to morally good behavior?
Mm-hmm.
And is everything that is a part of the dark side of the Force equivalent to morally bad behavior?
Yeah.
Because if not, and you're using light and dark sort of in the sense of others-oriented versus self-oriented, which was something that we talked about because we thought it was maybe explored a little bit, or at least hinted at a touch in the Mortis trilogy, where it was Sophie was more looking to others, even if it meant doing dumb things. And on contrary to that, Mark was looking to himself, but that didn't mean that everything that he did was bad, and he did care for his sister. And so it's like, if you go that direction, then you could say that the morally good thing, you could have some balance of light and dark aspects in something that is morally good, and that would be the will of the Force. But the problem is that Star Wars typically hasn't talked that way.
Yeah.
It's watch out for the dark side of the Force. Don't do the dark side of the Force sorts of
bad.
things. It's bad. And when Anakin brings balance to the Force, he does it by
destroying the bad
guys and doing a light side thing. Like the love that his son has as his son chooses the light over the dark is what motivates Anakin to snap out of it and choose the light over the dark.
Yeah.
And so the films have always presented, it's like, no, the light is what's morally good.
Yeah, and to me, I've always taken it as the light side of the Force is the Force's true nature.
Right.
Like, that's where it should be.
And the dark...
Having the dark side is what's causing the imbalance.
Right,
like
it's a corruption.
Yeah, it's corruption, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's the thing. It's like you can either look at the Force as it's got a light side and a dark side, and the will is this other thing, the will of the Force, which is separate from the light or the dark. Or you could take the approach that the light side of the Force is the will of the Force. It is what the Force wants to have happen. And the dark side is a corruption of it. And the Force is willing for good to come out of the evil that exists.
Right.
And so there is a sense in which, to some extent, George even himself has set up this problem a little bit by sort of having these concepts and not really like the movies again. They talk about the light side being good and the dark side being bad, but then you throw this concept of the balance of the Force in, and it's like, well, what does that mean? And you talk about the will of the Force, and so it can kind of get confusing for people. But the thing is, it seems like the movies, as we've said, don't seem to present this view of the Force where light is not necessarily good, dark is not necessarily bad, and so I think there's that issue with it. Another issue that I have with people being excited about it is it seems like some people are actually the light's the good stuff you do and the bad's the bad stuff you do, and what you're supposed to have something in the middle. Again, this like desire for anti-heroes.
Yeah.
And then when that person says, so you need to have either equal parts of it or none, making the Force gray, so to speak. It's like, that makes no sense.
No.
If there's no light side or no dark side, there's no side. There's no Force.
Right.
It's not that, well, if there's no light and no dark, it'd be gray. No, if the light and the dark are all muddled together, maybe there'd be gray. But if you say there is no light, there is no dark, then you don't have gray. You just have the
moral
Force.
ambiguity.
Yeah, you have moral non-value, not just ambiguity, because ambiguity is it's difficult or impossible for a person to ascertain its identity. This is something entirely different. This is in its very nature, its very essence, the Force is
amoral. That is, not immoral with an I, meaning bad, but amoral with an A, meaning having nothing to do with moral value, not involving questions of right and wrong, without moral quality. Okay, back to Nic and Josh.
And so it's not, well, maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. It's right and wrong have no meaning.
Right.
Those are completely nonsensical terms. It's like, it's like it doesn't mean anything. Just this obsession with it. And I saw somebody else posted something, and they were like, and maybe it's you get rid of the Force. We don't have the Force anymore in the galaxy, and get something.
You can't get rid of the Force.
Exactly. And this person even went further and was like, and maybe find where the midichlorians come from and stop that. I'm like, well, then you won't have any life in the galaxy.
Yeah.
Because according to Star Wars, according to Qui-Gon Jinn, who is the only person in Star Wars who seems to have never been wrong.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you keep everybody's checklists going, Qui-Gon never got anything wrong.
Nope.
Because Anakin was the chosen one, and he will bring balance. I mean, all of those things are legit. So Qui-Gon, what does Qui-Gon say? I don't want to download no JavaScript patch. So what? Qui-Gon Jinn, get out of my face. I don't want your JavaScript. You should download this patch. No. It's not a very good Qui-Gon impression. But anyway, so Qui-Gon says that without the midichlorians, life could not exist, and we have no knowledge of the Force. Mm-hmm. So there you go. Get over it. So yeah, I just don't. But so now let's bring this back to Bendu. So Bendu's like, I'm in the middle. I don't want everything to do with your business. I don't care about your fighting.
And freaking Kanan is telling him, no, that's stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Kanan. That's why we loved it.
Yeah, it's like one of the clearly hero characters in the show is like, that ain't how it works. You got to get involved, man. You can't just sit around and not do anything. And Kanan doesn't quite make this point explicitly, but it's certainly an undercurrent of what he's saying, which is if you're not being involved, if you're not trying to make a difference, then you're part of the problem.
Yep.
The only way to try to, it's impossible to be neutral.
Yeah.
You can't be neutral. If you do nothing, you're aiding and abetting the evil.
Right.
So it was like, yes, Kanan. Mm-hmm. And I felt like Kanan was not just speaking to Bendu, but all them people on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's like, this is the ideals of the Jedi. But anyway, so Bendu gets real mad, like really huffy mad. And I'm like, well, now wait a minute, where's all this coming from? But again, I guess I'm in the middle. It's like, so that means it's almost like he's what is the term they use in like role playing games? Because you've got got noble good,
chaotic neutral.
Yeah, because you've got like lawful good and chaotic good and neutrals and evils, and he's like chaotic neutral. Mm-hmm. It's like I do this, and what's interesting is it's like the show has kind of portrayed him as being but you're kind of good, but then here he's getting huffy and he's doing all this stuff, and what does he see? And this part did kind of concern me. For as much as Kanan's speech made me go, yes, take that, episode 8 trailer and people that love it and all that. When Bendu is like, what does he say? He's like, well, maybe the Force doesn't want, the Force wills for you people, you Jedi, to be exterminated, and I serve the will of the Force. Yeah. And he leaves. I'm like, that better not be the will of the Force. Yeah. Well, first of all, short term, I know it ain't.
Yeah.
Assuming the will of the Force is done, then I know it ain't. Because, maybe Kanan and Ezra are going to buy it, but Luke's going to survive, and Luke's going to defeat the Luke's going to bring his daddy back. His daddy's going to defeat the Sith. And now, of course, but in episode 7, all the Jedi get wiped out again. So it's like, that's where it's like, this better not be where this is going. This better not be where this is going. But anyway, so he gets huffy and leaves. I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. And so he's gone. So we cut to Ezra traveling through hyperspace. He contacts Mon Mothma, who looked a little like oldie British there a little bit. It's like, I'm not quite as pretty as actual Mon Mothma these days. I still love the fact that Rogue One Mon Mothma is episode 3 cutscene Mon Mothma. I'm like, bravo, bravo.
That's impressive.
Partially because it's like I can watch those cutscenes from episode 3 and be like, yeah, that happened. I mean, it totes happened.
Yeah.
Because that's her. Same her. Yeah, it's all good.
And I just like, too, that like Rogue One pays respects twice.
Yes.
To episode 3, because you got Mon Mothma and you got Jimmy Smits.
Yes, you do. I remember when I first heard that Jimmy Smits was in there as Bail Organa, I'm like, oh, no, y'all didn't. Yes, y'all did. Yes, y'all did. Yes, y'all did, Mon. But hopefully it won't be that one, Mon. And then, of course it was against Jimmy Smits. But anyway. So Ezra contacts Mon Mothma, pleads for her help. However, she feels hopeless in the matter. She it's like, look, if we bring in sort of like, I guess, her part of the fleet, or her fleet, then that's just going to give another target for Thrawn. He'll know that we've got more ships. We can't do that. And Ezra's like, yeah, he planned this all along to bring us out. And she said that apparently, some of them had thought and others had not thought, but apparently those who thought this were right, that the rebellion was not ready for open warfare against the Empire. But Ezra doesn't want to give up, and so he is going to help, try to get the help of Sabine, and that's part 1. So part 2 kicks right back in. The rebels are trapped on Atalon with the Imperial fleet blockading their escape. They power up a shield base that Sabine made and hoped that it would work, and so you've got the two kind of talking like this characters try to work on the shield. It's always funny to me. And in these episodes, like they were paired up a lot.
They were, yeah.
And like there's a part later on when they're detonating the walkers, and it's like they're kind of both together. Yeah. And it's like we were watching it, and I was I guess I was trying to be Rex, and I was like, I'm the better version of me than you. Yeah. It's like, that's right. And Zeb was like, yep, I'm a disappointment. Nick says I am. Anyway. But so they power up this base, the shield, and hope that it would hold. I did think the imagery of them sort of looking up and seeing all of the blaster fire from the Star Destroyer
really cool,
hitting the shield. That was neat.
That was a neat idea, and I like too, that's happening, and Hera's looking up at it, and she starts to kind of wince, like this thing's about to give out, and then and when Thrawn cuts it off, and like okay, they've had enough. Yeah. Like, I thought that was actually a neat moment from Thrawn. Yeah. Like, basically just, we know they've got this shield up. Just keep hammering and hammering and hammering. We'll get it just about to where it's about to blow up.
And then we'll cut it off.
We'll cut it off.
This is like, now I'm just messing with it.
Right. Yeah.
Because the thing is, cool. Earlier he was like, I'm not accepting surrenders today. Yeah. And then when they go down to the planet, that is the Imperials, they're like, and try to get the people alive. So it's like, it's like anything I could do to just mess with your mind. Right. That's what it's like. He's a psychological manipulator. He ought to be on Facebook.
Yeah, for real.
Take that, social media. So the shield holds, but barely. Thrawn seizes fire. The Senate says the shield held, but barely until Thrawn seized fire.
Seized fire.
He ceased fire, but he seized fire. I will take this fire and put it in my hand. Don't worry, I saw this once at a hibachi restaurant. And he waved it in the air and then put it into a little volcano made out of onions.
And then he pushed it with his spatula and went toot, toot, toot.
And then he tried to throw a shrimp into my mouth. I told him that I didn't want shrimp, but he ignored it, and I reminded him of the artwork that people have done with shrimp over the years, and he was not convinced or deterred, which was a tactical mistake on his part, because as he was looking up to throw the shrimp, I took a dagger from my belt, and I rammed it into his gullet, and he died, and we didn't get the rest of our food. And everybody was mad at me. But I told him, if you only knew about this painting I one time saw, it was a really good painting, and you would not be hungry right now. This all happened, I promise. I'm not lying. Every bit of it. There was another Thrawn art story that I told when we were watching it, but I forgot what it was. Like, he went on this long tangent about, because it wasn't about the, was it about
was it when I said the thing about
seeing girl?
Seeing Sabine's mom's
Like
painting.
He's like, he will know, he will recognize you from the picture. But there was another one where it's like he went off on this tangent. He's like, yes, and that's one if this art picture. No, I know what it was. At least I know part of what it was. He's like, it could have worked into that story. He's like, yes, but you see, one time I saw this picture on Pinterest. And if you, okay, so we'll get to it. Remember Pinterest when we get later on, because it's going to come into play. But so anyway, and we forgot to mention how he was like, oh, Sato is using the doop-de-doo maneuver.
Oh, yeah.
Which is something that blah, 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 but I would expect no less from him, the greatest sick person to come out. So it's like this backhanded compliment, but it's like, I'm special. And what did you say about it?
Yeah, I was like, I'm so smart because I know about this thing we've never talked about before, and that absolutely makes me smart, doesn't it, audience?
Exactly. It's like he could have turned and given like the Eddie Murphy, mugging for the camera thing.
Right.
It's like, it would have been funny if you could have seen me, but it's an audio show. Yeah. But anyway, anyway, the shield holds but barely. Thrawn seized fire in his hand. In my hands. In my hands. My hands again. Oh, it's good stuff. At the same time, Kanan notices a storm brewing, which makes him suspect that something was coming.
Yeah.
Maybe of a Bendu nature. Meanwhile, Ezra makes it to, apparently Crown Nest is the place, and informs Sabine about Thrawn's ambush on Atollon.
Uh-huh.
He asks her and her Mandalorian cousins to help, but only to be told he had come at a bad time. Because Sabine's mom's like, I'm sorry, Bridger, you've come at a bad time. We're right in the middle of a Monopoly game. You know how long these things can take. But don't worry. Werewolf Boy over there just got Park Place, and he already had Boardwalk, so things might start to improve from a time standpoint. But so, no, apparently they're in a civil war, and so if you're a Mandalorian, that's big stuff. We're having a civil war. We're fighting.
Right, go back inside.
They're all the Marvel fans. Yay, civil war. We're fighting. You gotta punch them in the throat or kick them in the throat. You gotta do one of them. But anyway, he's let me hear me out, and so he talks about it a little bit. Taylor Lautner's like, no, we're not. You can't help. Let me take my shirt off, and because he looked a little bit like Taylor Lautner. It's kind of like, whoa, where'd that come from? So he tries to explain that the interdictor cruisers, and so Ursa listens. Apparently, her mother's name is Ursa.
Ursa.
Yeah.
Ursa and Bator.
Bator. Ooh.
No, that's number one.
That's right, and that's number 2. Now, of course, it's technically Lursa, but it's close enough for us.
Yeah.
So, get over it.
That's a Star Trek
That's a Star Trek reference.
Dang
it. If you don't like that, then you're not a merry man. So, let's see. Observing the problem, the Mandalorians did not see any chance of them succeeding. However, Sabine stood by Ezra. She's like, if anybody can pull something out of a hat and make something happen out of nothing, it's them. If Ezra says we can make a difference, then we can make a difference. I'm going to go and help. Yeah. And then so her mom was like, well, you've made your point. And so that's a Transformers reference. Yeah. It's a memorable moment when Optimus Prime is like, we should not do this. And someone says, but Optimus Prime, we really should. And he says, you've made your point. And he, as in, I agree with you. You're right. Let's go.
Yeah.
And so
takes all in 2 seconds.
I mean, it's like, what a leader. So
I've changed my mind.
Hey, he when he hears a good argument, he accepts it and just really goes with it.
That's right.
But so Ursa's like, well, we can't leave ourselves defenseless, but you can go, and any pilots that want to go with you can go. And so they got help. Yay. So they come up with a plan that will require not a whole army, but just a group of people. Meanwhile, back on Adelon, Thrawn has gotten on the ground for the ground assault. And they're going to comb the desert.
Man, we ain't found
nothing. Tubes. Because really, it's like the door opened and it's all, like, oh, he's wearing the thing. That's nice. And I was like, he said, comb the desert. We're combing the desert. Exactly. And so he's on the ground for the assault while Governor Price remains in the command of the fleet. Mm-hmm. The rebels, though, are ready for Thrawn and they engage their walkers. And this is where I'm the better version of me than you are of me.
Yeah.
Kanan joins in the fight, makes his way back to Chopper Base with Zeb and Rex for one last attempt to evacuate. He gets knocked down on his speeder or off his speeder. And Hera calls in to try to get him, to hear from him. Uh-huh. And he's like, I do think that Thrawn this time really is trying to kill us. And she's like, that would be funny if you weren't out there or something. Yeah. He's like, he's like, I'm on my way back, so you need to go faster. But she says something very interesting here. She's like, hurry up back, love, or something like that. Yeah. She calls him love.
Yeah.
So it's like, aha!
They are.
I knew they
having
were
the sexy time midnight.
No, he's a Jedi.
Oh.
They don't do that. Not till you're married.
They don't even get married.
That's right. Well, Anakin did. Anakin is the father, isn't he?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he is. I'm so sorry. What did I did Thrawn for Obi-Wan? Oh, that's not good. Why did you do that? I'm sorry. I don't know. Thrawn's just been in my head all day. Yes, I have. Anyway. So one big last attempt is always good whenever I see Rex again in the group. It makes me happy. It's like, yeah. So Ezra and Chopper return with the Mandalorian reinforcements. Leading the fighters, Fenn Rau engages the Imperials while Ezra and Sabine attempt to lead a strike team to take out the last interdictor. And so Sabine says to Ezra, what do you remember about your zero-G training? And he says... I remember it made me sick to my stomach.
That's number three.
Take it all. First contact. It's a great. Assimilate this.
Yeah.
Love it. Love that. Liz doesn't like what she's seen of First Contact.
Oh, she doesn't know yet.
I know. I think once we get there, she'll appreciate it more.
Yep.
So, anyway, though.
First Contact is the Star Trek movie for people that don't even have to like Star Trek.
Exactly. You just
it's
like
just
a good movie.
Awesome.
Just watch it. It is a great movie. It's really such a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, they inform the rebellion of their arrival, and they make no haste to evacuate the base. And suddenly, the Imperials take out their shield generator. Hurricane and Zeb, Rex, General Dodonna, as well as Marvin the Paranoid Android, also known as...
Alan Rickman?
I was going to say Hans Gruber.
Hans Gruber.
Also known as some doobie-doobie-doobie.
As Simon Gruber's brother.
Simon Gruber's brother. Also known as some gobbledygook name from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Also known as...
the Metatron.
The Metatron, that's right. And what was his character's name in Galaxy Quest by Grapthar's Hammer? Oh man, it's gonna bother me now that I can't remember it. Anyway, that guy from Alan Rickman.
Yep.
The Alan Rickman droid. They're all surrounded by Thrawn's men, and this is when Thrawn had been like, bring them alive if possible. I'm going to sit here and comb the desert. And so they get him and they surround him. And Thrawn is essentially like, you either surrender, Miss Syndulla, or Commander Syndulla, or watch all of your people die. It's totally up to you. I'm fine either way. You make the decision. And so, just as it's about to go down, the thunderstorm approaches. And Garth Brooks is somewhere on a mountain singing, and the thunder rolls, and the lightning strikes. Bow, bow, bow. That's right. Except this time it's not about adultery, it's about the Bendu. Another ooh-ooh in the sky sends the lightning down. while the ooh rages on out of control. Deep on the AT-AT, the thunder rolls. And so the lightning begins, and they're like, "What is that?" And he's like, "I am the Bendu."
Here we go.
I bring death. It's not like I bring pizza. I bring death.
That was like, I think that right there was the corniest line ever in a Star Wars thing ever, and it was delivered so weird.
And it's like, I like Tom Baker because, I mean, again, he was the doctor with the scarves and stuff.
Yeah.
And I've thought he's brought an interesting, quality to Bendu this
Sure.
whole time. But yeah, that line, I'm like, y'all probably could have picked
I
a
bring
different
death.
thing. I bring death. What do you do? I bring death. All the time with me. And you made this very, very good sort of continuity point, which is that, well, shouldn't somebody have told Luke later on about this?
Yeah, about this giant force thing in the sky.
It's like one time the Phoenix Squadron before we were all put together, the Phoenix Squadron was trying to escape a planet, and Thrawn was with them, and was about to get him, and then this big godlike force creature thing threw down lightning, and he was like, "I bring death," and then he immediately struck an AT-AT, which I don't know, maybe he thought the AT-AT was alive. I bring death. It's like we didn't feel comfortable telling him that wasn't alive, sir. That's like you broke my car. It's like I bring death, and then I wrecked your fridge. It's like, well, maybe you do bring death, but you just ruined some machinery right there. I bring death, and then he gave me a something to drink. I don't get it. I bring death, and then he put a stain on my carpet. I don't.
Well, it's like, and for somebody who is, if you want your gray thing, it's like, here it is. Look what he's done.
Exactly.
Like, he killed Imperials. Mm-hmm. He killed rebels that were trying to escape.
Yep.
Not good.
Exactly. He just told everybody leave.
Yeah.
I want you all gone.
I'm going to kill now.
Because it's like
I bring death.
It's like, well, that kind of sounds like he's selfish. Like he just cares about this planet.
Exactly.
I mean, he says oh, I care about the will of the Force. But then it's like, do you really or do you not really?
Yeah.
Because the thing is, it's like for all these people, good and evil, light and dark, it's all a point of view. As I've said before, and I'll say it again, you know who talks like that in the Star Wars universe? The Sith.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always the bad guys that pull it's a point of view. It's all relative. From my perspective, the Jedi are evil. That's always...
They are lost.
And you are lost. It is your fault. And you've done that yourself. Democracy. Democracy. But yeah, it's always the Sith that say that. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's always the Jedi that are like, don't lie. Although the Jedi are like, don't lie. Now let me go lie to this kid about his dad.
Right.
But he's got some issues there. But no, people are like, no, because see, Luke realized the Jedi were dumb, and they were the ones that were at fault for everything. And then I saw someone make some other comment about how, you can thank the prequels for making the Jedi look stupid. And I'm like, no, you look stupid.
No, your mother looks stupid.
Your mother looks very stupid. Anyway. But so, where was I? Bendu, yeah. So if this is what, as you point out, if this is what you want, this is what you get. Because he is, I think, accurately portrayed as what sort of chaotic neutral would be.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just going to do whatever I want to. Yeah. We thought it was funny when he gets mad at Kanan in the beginning of in part one. He's like, you make me the will of the Force for you all to die, and I obey the will of the Force. And he leaves. It'd be funny if he'd come back in the second part. He's like, I talked to the Force, and the Force said it's okay for y'all to stay and for me to help fight the bad guys. So I'm sorry. I thought I knew, but I guess maybe I was kind of drunk. On my dark side, because I'm like, hey, I'm in the middle. It's okay. It's okay for me to do the bad thing every once in a while.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like what Yoda says is when you do that, you're falling to the dark side.
Right.
Bender's like, oh, no, I'm the one that does the Force wheeling around here. I'm the one that listens to it, not you.
Yeah.
So anyway, Bendu's striking people down and bringing death, and doing his thing, and being truly sort of this in the middle kind of thing. Let's see. Meanwhile, Ezra and Sabine are on the hall.
In the Great Hall of the Justice League.
Great Hall of the Interdiction. So I like Star Wars Rebels Wikipedia, wiki.com, because their summaries are not very long. But they maybe need some more editors, because here's the sentence. Meanwhile, Ezra and Sabine led a strike team on the Hall of the Last Interdictor. Not the hole, but the hall.
The hall.
So Thrawn seized fire, and they had a strike team on the Hall. Haul. Not hall as in the Hall of the Justice League, but the hall that we got when we went and got our DVDs on Black Friday from Walmart. So, they attack the gravity generators, and Governor Price orders an attack to stop the... Oh, we didn't mention that Sato's dead.
Yeah.
Because the thing didn't mention it. So back when Sabine, when Ezra and Chopper were trying to leave, they couldn't get out because of the interdictor, because there was 2 interdictors.
Right.
And so Sato was basically like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be in episode 4. Everybody out.
Pretty much.
We're going to pull a Worf here and go ramming speed.
Yep.
And 2 guys were like, we're going to stay with you. And he's like, okay, that'll be great. Instead of being like, the more people the rebellion has, the better. You guys should go.
Yeah.
He's like, no, y'all stay and die with me. And so they go towards one of the interdictor cruisers, and Constantine is all like, let's go get him. Yeah. And he
wants the kill.
Yeah, subordinates tells him, but remember, Thrawn told us to stay here. And he says, no, I want to kill. I want the thrill of the hunt. I'm going to go do it. And so he starts to move. And Thrawn calls him up, says, you need to stay where you are. And he says, no, I'm going to go and I'm going to do this. Yeah. And he does it.
Gives Thrawn some lip.
That's right. Gives a little sass from Constantine. And so he's like, I'm going to defeat this carrier. And then Sato pulls a crazy Ivan, and he turns and he rams the ship, and it just blasts apart, because they don't make things very well. Like there was a Corvette, like a Corellian Corvette, like 2 bomb strikes from a TIE bomber blew it up.
Right now.
Like maybe you had some shield and hull damage anyway already, because that should not have happened with just those 2. So lots of things were very fragile. It was very sad. But so it got blew up, and everybody looks to Thrawn, and he's like, oh, it's not so bad. You think it's bad, but you see, I saw this picture on Pinterest this one time. This is when that came up. I saw this picture on Pinterest one time, and it had kittens on it, and if you study that very carefully, you would know that it's okay. Then I went to DeviantArt, and I saw another picture, and it had Sonic fan characters, Sonic the Hedgehog fan characters on it, and that one gave me other insight that if you would understand that I'm mad, and it's okay for me to be mad, but we're gonna be okay. So. And then this one time, I saw this picture on somebody's refrigerator, and I was like, that little girl is now Cinderella. And no one knew what I was talking about, including myself. Every story I tell you is true. Every one of them. Command me, Lord. So Sato's dead. Yeah. So that's why there's only one interdictor to deal with, is because Sato sacrificed himself in the carrier to be able to get one interdictor down and out of the way, so that Ezra and Chopper could get out and bring reinforcements. Yep. So that's why that's all happened. So let's see what's going on here. The Bendu attacks the rebels with his attacks everybody with his rebel lightning strikes. With his rebel lightning strikes, it says raw, 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 instead of rebel yell, Billy Idol, white wedding. Anyway, let's see. But anyway, the rebels are able to succeed in leaving the planet, and so he's striking down everybody. And Hera says, "So this is your friend?" He's like, I might have made him mad a little. I might have made him mad a little bit. You think? So they leave. The rebels escape. And so Thrawn's like, you need to shoot at the middle of the angry cloud man.
Yeah.
I actually didn't think that would do anything. I was surprised that it knocked him down. For as much as Bendu's always like, I'm out of those all dimensions of death and
I'm in the
things.
middle.
I'm in the middle. It's like, well, so we're all going to get on the plane. I'll take the wing seat. Well, I'll sit in the middle. No, I'm in the middle. You take the aisle seat and you take the window seat. I'm in the middle. I bring death. It's like, yeah, we know you had the tacos for lunch and we're on the airplane. But I think you're overestimating what you're doing right now. I bring death. Won't you bring that death in the bathroom? It's in the back of the plane. I can't go to the back of the plane. Why not? The back of the plane is not the middle, and I'm in the middle. Bindu, you are the worst air trip companion ever. You know why? Don't tell me. Because I bring death. So they shoot him down. And so they go, and there's the big giant sitting there. And he's, oh, you can't kill me. I'm beyond. It's all that same garbage again.
Yep.
But this was kind of interesting because when he says you can't kill me, in what was sort of like an interestingly petty kind of display, old Thrawn just pulls out his hip gun, points at him, and was like, really? Because it looks like I can.
Yeah.
And then we get close-ups of their eyes, and he's like, but I can see, and you cannot. And I see what's going to happen to you. I see your defeat. Like thousands or hundreds or 8 or something cold arms reaching about you. And you could tell that it messed with Thrawn a little bit.
Yeah.
And so he shot him. And we see his face as he shoots him. And there's like a second or two. And then it cuts to a shot behind, like the camera cuts to a position behind Thrawn. And we see where Bindu should be, but he's not there. And at that moment, Thrawn kind of jumps back. And we said to Thrawn, oh, wait, so you didn't know he wasn't there until the camera got behind you? Because shouldn't you have reacted like immediately as soon as you shot him? And then he's like, wait, he's gone. What's that all about? Thrawn, you're a little slow there, aren't you, bud? Because, Mr. I know everything.
Didn't see that in your art, did you?
Well, if y'all knew about this piece of art that I saw on Instagram the other day, it's a girl. It was more of a picture, really. But it had a caption that was sort of like art, and it said, I'm bored and looking for fun. I'm going to think about that right now. Not about how that big monkey told me I'm going to die by a cold octopus.
And I'm wondering too, like he foretells his death there. Like, is that something we're going to see next season?
Yeah.
Like, are they going to go ahead and off Thrawn?
Off Thrawn? Well, it would kind of make sense, for as much as I know that part of the story group would probably not like for that to happen.
Right.
It, from a continuity sense, kind of makes sense that it's like, well, why would we have never seen Thrawn in 4, 5, and 6?
Yeah.
If he's such a big deal. Again, it's the same problem with Kanan and Ezra. It's like, if they're still around, they should have been in those stories.
Right.
In some way, shape, form, or fashion.
Right.
Because with Hera, you can kind of, well, she was in the background, she was in a ship somewhere, and, the camera just never trained on the ghost like it did in Rogue One. And we're fine. But with Jedi characters, you kind of need it.
Gotta have that, or
it just doesn't work. Luke's not the last hope.
Right.
It's like, that boy's our only hope. Well, I mean, I guess it could be Ezra, maybe Kanan. I mean, he's blind, but, it could be him, right?
Well, I've talked to Ezra before.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, that boy's our last hope. No, it could be Ezra. Well, I wasn't even thinking about him. You're right. I just totally discounted him, but he's on that other base over there, isn't he? In fact, we pretty much talk to him every Tuesday, don't we? Yes. Play cards, we do. Through the Force. Oh, yeah, it could be him. What's his daddy's name? It's not his daddy. No. His teacher. Yes. Kanan. Oh, yeah, Kanan. That's right. I was going to go bowling with Kanan. I mean, I'll be there sort of as an immaterial Force ghost like I am, and he'll be there in person, but I'll be honest with my Force bowling ball in ghostly form that I use. Just because he gets kind of complainy when I cheat. But I guess he could be other hope, couldn't he? Yes. Or Ahsoka. Ahsoka could be it too. Oh, darn it, I forgot about Ahsoka. It's not because, don't look at me like that, it's not because she's a girl. Just because she's not technically been a Jedi for a while. Since, with Anakin. Let's not talk about Anakin. I'm going to get all sad again.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
Apparently, in season 4, we'll find out that Ahsoka's not dead.
Oh, really?
Or at least we'll find out more about her fate.
So if there's not much more to find out if she's dead.
You're right. They might find out that she's dead. So, yeah, that'll be
It's like, well, that stinks. Then it'd be like, oh, wait a minute. That's right, Ahsoka's here with me in the death realm. Come here, Ahsoka, step onto the camera. The death camera that lets people, Come here, Snips. I think it's safe to say we totally messed up with your former master, didn't we?
How I was, after reading the thing about Ahsoka, I was like, I kind of want to watch the bit with her and Anakin again. So I looked that up on YouTube. That is, in my opinion, the best thing that Rebels has ever done.
Oh yeah,
like that, like just the subtleness in that is freaking awesome. Like when she cuts part of his mask off, and he talks to her, and it's Matt Lanter doing the voice with the Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Like the kind of the voice changer thing, and it kind of gives you this idea that, like, when he's got his full mask on, it's like that changes his voice entirely. Like what everybody hears as Darth Vader is
not his voice.
Nothing like what he actually sounds like. Which we knew from Return of the Jedi and everything. Right, but this one, the way it's done it drives that home even more.
Exactly.
Listen, so he doesn't have legs anymore. I'm talking to you, robots. He doesn't have legs anymore, Lord Vader doesn't. He's going to be upset. So we're going to give him new metal legs. We're going to have to give him new metal arms because he didn't have the high ground. But here's the deal. To make him feel better about himself, give him a cool robot voice.
Robot voice.
They're like, okay. So they give Lord Vader. Yes. Ooh, I like that voice you gave me.
I knew you would, Lord Vader.
He says, give him a robot voice. And he comes back and he says, hi, I'm Darth Vader.
I'm Chief Master Sergeant Darth Vader.
No, that's right.
Not it at all. You should fix it. I do not want to listen to that voice for the next 15, 20, 30, 40, however many years until I off him for someone else. Can you imagine that every morning? Lord Vader, report to me on the status of the Empire and our attempts to eradicate the rest of the Jedi that have remained.
Well, guess what, Master? We found 2 more, and I done killed them.
I would drive me crazy. What is wrong with you? You're the worst human making into cyborg repairing robots I have ever seen. You are completely stupid. Make him sound like the guy that did the voice for CNN. Make him sound like a lion daddy.
Lion daddy.
That was a king, but not the king of the titular movie. Or was he? Was it a reference to Simba or to Mufasa? I don't really know. I shouldn't know about the existence of those movies. I apologize. I've broken walls.
Oh, this is stupid. Oh, this was what the Clone Cast used to be like.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Yes. Goodness, I'm surprised that the couch people haven't shown up. It's like, oh, having fun again? Let's come back. So anyway, so they're leaving. Oh, and we got to talk a little bit about Callus for a second, because basically, like Thrawn beat Callus up.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I want you to watch everything that happens. And so Callus, most of the rest of the episodes, is, beat up with his hair down and a black eye. Mm-hmm. But when Thrawn goes, I think, to lead the ground assault, and he's walking out, and he's like, I'm going to lead the ground assault. You stay up here, Dr. Spalco. And she's like, I will do that. I will stay here and help you.
Mm-hmm.
And Callus chuckles.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, is the fate of your friends down there amusing to you?" Which is a dumb question. Because what's Callus going to go, "Yep, I'm a rebel, and I don't like you Imperial guys anymore. But yeah, I think it's hilarious that you're going to kill him." No, moron, that's not what I'm thinking. Mister, I'm so smart. Here's what I'm really thinking. And so he says, and I loved it. He's like, "I was where you used to be. I've been there, thinking that I've got everything under control, but then these rebels have a way of unraveling the plans and things that you think you have." And then what Thrawn's response was essentially, "I'm not you, as they're going to find out."
Yeah.
It's like, oh, and then it all unraveled.
Yep.
And so as everything's unraveling, Spalko tells the guards that were holding Callus, because Callus is like, "Neeners, ha ha." And she's like, "Throw him out an airlock." And so they go to an elevator, because you got to take the elevator down in the airlock, and the door shuts, and right before the door shuts, you see him kind of smile, and I'm like, he gonna wreck shop on them boys. And sure enough, the door opens, and they're on the floor, and he's like, "There we go, I'm gonna get out of here." So he gets out, he sends the code, and so as the ghost is leaving, they get the Fulcrum hologram, and there's coordinates, and there's the escape pod, and they go and they get him. And I thought this was interesting because, one could think that, well, maybe they were going to off Callus. The writers were going to off him. And did you see where Dave Filoni talked about that? I think it was in the IGN interview.
I don't remember.
What he said was, I don't know if they seriously thought about it, but they chose not to do it. The idea was they didn't think that was the right message to send to young people, that you start to choose to do the right thing and it just gets you killed.
Yeah.
Like, they wanted to show that doing the right thing can work out even for you. And I like that. Yeah. Because it is often the case that, well, he chose to do the right thing, but then something really horrible happened to him.
Yeah.
So you kids choose to do the right thing. So something horrible happened to you. But it's okay. So I thought that was nice. Yeah. Plus, I like Callus too much for them to get rid of him. So I was excited for that. And so the fleet is dispersing, and we get this shot of the cockpit. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, okay. And Alan Rickman and Zeb are arguing, or was it? No, it was Rex, talking about how many jumps they needed to make before they went to Yavin. Yavin. So it's like, going to Yavin, which makes sense.
Yeah.
And then we kind of get a little bit of what's going on in the ship, and I guess Sabine has gone back home, right? Mm-hmm. So the family was back together again for a few minutes, but then they've had to go their separate ways. Yep. And so everybody's celebrating, but then there's like a couple of the just random rebel soldiers that are sort of leaning on railings. It's like you can tell that maybe they probably lost their friends, and so it's bittersweet. And it ends with Ezra and Kanan talking about how basically, I forgot the details of the speech, but it was things aren't easy, but I've seen, Kanan says, I've seen things differently than you, because Ezra's despondent. We've lost everything. And Kanan says, yeah, but I've learned to see things differently, and there's a future where we can all be free, and it's our job to help make that happen. Mm-hmm. And they jump to light speed. No.
Yep.
And that's it.
Something we missed was in the first episode, the conversation that they have.
Yes.
And I'd pointed out, because it seemed to me,
Olive Garden, Italian food,
that conversation was very, very, very similar to the last conversation that Obi-Wan and Anakin had before Anakin turned to the dark side.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they were talking about the teaching in the past tense.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about, and I mean, Ezra was saying things about, I've been headstrong and I've done this, but you've taught me, and yeah, it really did kind of have that same sort of vibe.
So it makes you wonder: is old
Ezra
going to turn to the dark side next season, and Caden's going to have to kill him?
I saw some people on YouTube believing that Snoke is Ezra.
Oh no!
We're like, no. Because then they'd have to explain, he used to be this blue-haired boy.
Right.
Look at him. He's not the gay sport blue boy. Dang it, y'all. But it does make one wonder because again, that next season, it needs to be the case that
they all need to
they
die.
are dealt with in some way, and so I wonder how that'll go.
Yeah.
But so that was the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Thought it was a good episode.
It was good.
It's good music by Kevin Kiner, except the one part when he's like, "Here's Luke's theme."
Yeah.
Not really relevant here, but it's kind of the Star Wars theme, so I guess it makes sense.
Yeah.
But yes.
And there was that one French horn.
Goodness.
No, straight up, we've got the same libraries that Kevin Kiner does.
The very first note in the first part is a French horn note, and one of the shoot 'em up game that is not in development except just some pre stuff that we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we've done is we've sort of written the overture, the music main theme for it, and it begins with a French horn, it's like 2 horns or 6 horns. I forgot if it's 2 or 6, doing a melody. And it begins on the same note that the French horn on the first part of the episode begins with. Mm-hmm. And so when it first started, I just started humming the rest of our melody. And it's like, you know what? I think that was actually, and we backed it up and we played it again. It's like, that's the exact same French horn.
Yeah.
That boy's using East West Quantum Leap Hollywood brass.
Straight up.
Because the thing is, and I've read this, I know you have too, that it's like people that work with like some of those libraries a lot, you can start to hear it in stuff because like that's the horns you hear all the time. So when you hear it, you're like, oh, that's what and sure enough, it's like, oh, there it is.
Also makes me wonder, since we're hearing that exactly, if Kevin Kiner also doesn't have the diamond versions of
For real.
of the stuff.
So, man, you need to use them surround mics. Instead of, it's like, come on, Disney, pony up to give them the diamond edition. When they're on sale, it's $150.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Is it really $150?
When it's on sale.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's not bad.
No, it's not bad at all. Well, when if I get some good money, and I'm gonna look for when it's on sale. I want to get the diamond edition of the brass and the strings.
Yeah, that's the only ones you really need.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can make do with the woodwinds as they are, and I don't even know what you would do with the diamond edition of the percussion if there even is one.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess just the other mic positions, but it seems like you can fudge that, fake that easier.
Yeah, a whole lot easier.
Just put more reverb on it.
Yeah,
more cowbell.
Yeah, more cowbell.
That's right. So that's Rebels season 3. So we've got some Star Wars news to talk about, and then we'll discuss the trailer a little bit more, right?
Yeah. We've also got that email.
Yes, we do. Did we say the email was going to be next? I think we said that was the order of operations.
So
it's time for
emails.
Good job, Skeletor.
It says, I just recently finished. It was from Hugh Janus, by the way.
Yes, Hugh Janus.
He says, I just recently finished watching the Rebels Twin Sons episode and kind of noticed the difference with Henry and Dave at the wheel again. I personally enjoyed the final duel much more than the epic drawn-out lightsaber duel I had originally fantasized. The fight was like a huge tribute to the old Akira Kurosawa films. The old master swordsman who, with more experience, has shorter duels.
This is true.
Yeah. The final showdown exceeded my expectation for sure. The fancy force-heavy speed run, OP, yet somehow vulnerable lightsaber duel was all done mentally during the intense circling and the stare down, in which, in each other's eyes, the fight was already taking place. These are two force wielders who have prepared for this day for a long time. Maybe not so much Ben, but he was still prepared for whatever came his way during his watch for Luke. I can see that.
Yeah.
Like, I can see the fight going that way. I guess what I would have really liked to have seen is more talking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Between the two.
That's always our thing usually.
Yeah.
It's like talk more.
Yeah.
Except for Thrawn, talk less. Everybody else talk more.
Right.
And especially in that moment.
So, yeah.
The other thing that I would have preferred is to have made it a little more obvious that he done killed him.
Yeah.
But I know that that's also a Kurosawa and anime-ish kind of thing, where it's like you do the slice,
yeah.
and
like,
you don't know who hit
the beginning
who.
of Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah, you don't know who hit who until somebody falls down.
Right.
So it's like I can get that. I mean that kind of imagery was even used like in the Tartakovsky 2D first season of Clone Wars.
Right.
But something to make it a little more obvious, and then like you say, more talking, more build up.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
This quick tangent. I hear a lot of Star Wars fans calling that scene the little kid Luke Skywalker when Luke and Ezra are born during the same year. They are the same age, and I think Luke even has his driver's license, which he uses to kill womp rats.
Probably.
So I don't.
That's how he bullseyed him.
Yeah. So I don't exactly see how people get little kid out of that, but whatever. Luke being seen as the invisible kid, maybe, but little man.
Invisible kid.
I've never seen what he did. Man, for the Empire, they never see this virtually invisible kid Luke. They never see what he does, since he's technically never see what he did.
He's doing it
He's
again.
technically stuck hiding off the grid on Tatooine until things literally get hot. He's got a place of his own where he'll never be known until the time is right. But until then, he's locked away on the homestead, away from the shame and the pain of his father's doing.
Nicely done.
This is clever.
This is very good. But it also makes a very good point, and I had not thought about sort of the imagery of Luke being only seen in shadow, in the sense that everybody in the galaxy would be in the same boat. They wouldn't notice him. He's just some young boy somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That it's in a sense what we're seeing through that imagery is saying something about where he is at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He says, I love the way Ben goes for his classic signature Obi-Wan Kenobi fighting stances, then waits for Maul to respond, then switches to his master stance, which lures Maul into trying the same technique that killed Qui-Gon Jinn, ultimately leading to him being cut down again after Ben changes his lightsaber form. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I did not pick up on that.
Yeah, that's very true.
To me, it explains why the lightsaber fight in Star Wars A New Hope was so different compared to Revenge of the Sith. Obi-Wan wasn't given everything he had at Darth Vader/Anakin. He was simply buying time for Luke and his friends to escape and to help push Luke further into the rebellion by his sacrifice.
And that's a very good point that I think a lot of people sometimes miss, and we don't even mention it like we should when that comes up. And that is, it's very, very likely, in fact, seems to be pretty clear, that Obi-Wan has no intention of leaving the Death Star.
Yeah.
I mean, Vader believes it because he says escape is not his plan. I must confront him alone. Because that's what Anakin thinks that Obi-Wan is doing. And the way that Obi-Wan talks gives you that idea. And the fact that as Hugh says, he's kind of waiting until Luke's in eye shot, and then he's like, okay, go ahead and shoot. Go ahead and kill me. Yeah. It's like this was never about Obi-Wan defeating Anakin.
True. Yeah.
And it's interesting to wonder why that is. I mean, you know, did Obi-Wan not think that him staying alive and helping the rebellion was worth it? Did he think, I'm too old to really be the one to do this thing? Or was it, if you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you could possibly imagine? That he felt like he could do more good for the cause by being a Force ghost. Because now Yoda and Qui-Gon have taught him how to do it.
Right.
So he can do it, and he can help Luke without having to worry about, no, don't worry, I'll teach you to do things. They can't even see me, let alone kill me.
Right.
You know, was there maybe something along those lines? And then finally he's like, okay, now you're going to have to go to see Yoda because there's some things you really need to be able to touch someone to do. Oh, that didn't come out right. Forgot about Ahsoka. Anyway, so, but yeah, it does kind of play into that where it's like, Obi-Wan can still get the job done if need be, just like he does with Ponda Baba at the cantina. I'm such a nerd. I know Ponda Baba's name. But yeah, so anyway, go ahead.
He says, as seen in Rogue One, Darth Vader still is a killing machine. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's still Anakin behind those powerful and menacing lightsaber swings. This is a tragic hero who lost all his limbs and was left to burn to death by his old master when they last fought. At that point, Chief Palpatine could have practically used Anakin as a campfire to roast s'mores over, or sing Sith campfire songs if she wanted to.
Guess what?
Guess what?
We're going to burn you and sing songs. Like, row, row, row your Death Star.
Of course, he would be on guard and probably try to match his former master in the lightsaber fight during A New Hope. It also explains now that Vader/Anakin was holding back when fighting his son Luke. Even the "too late for me" line in Jedi has more of an emotional tug for me personally now. By the way, if you were introduced to the Star Wars film in chronological order, there is so much more weight and emotional tragedy in A New Hope than watching it as 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, in my humble opinion. Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah. We're big proponents of watching chronological order, and I would include Rogue One in that. I would say you watch 1, 2, the Clone Wars series, 3.
Mm-hmm.
You get to be seen if I would fully recommend Rebels.
Yeah.
Rogue One, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Because it does. I mean, it's like we leave Anakin having just, I mean, he'd been Vader for half of episode 3, but in the suit for just a couple of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to Rogue One, and you see him again. And the first thing that you see him in Rogue One, he's not wrecking shop. He's back on Mustafar. It's like, oh yeah, Mustafar.
Yeah.
You know, and he's sort of there, and they're just talking. It's like, oh, okay. And then at the end, it's like, oh, Anakin,
no.
what have you become?
Yeah.
And Hugh makes a great point, too, that it's like when you see, because, I mean, really, Rogue One is the most intense Vader in the suit we see.
Yeah.
I mean, because even in episode 5, when he's killing people right and left because they didn't do something right, it's not with the intensity, the violent intensity.
Right.
And on the one hand, I do feel like the intensity that Anakin has at the end of Rogue One can be a bit of a story problem, because it's like, well, why didn't he do a little bit more wreck shop on Obi-Wan? Because we understand why Obi-Wan didn't on Anakin, but why didn't Anakin on Obi-Wan? It makes sense with Luke. I think Hugh's exactly right. You could read it as partially, well, he's holding back.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't fight him with a lightsaber until he knows he's his kid.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, granted, in episode 5, it's
Well, that's
father and
not
son.
true anymore.
What do you mean?
Apparently, one of the comics, the new canon comics,
Uh-huh.
they meet before Empire.
Nope. Don't count it.
Nope.
Nope. Don't count it. Don't.
Now, I
count
don't know exactly what all happens, but I know something. I know Luke says something to Vader about, like, you killed my father or something like that.
Prepare to die.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know how in depth it goes. I don't know if they fight or what. I think they fight, but I'm not positive.
I hope not.
I hope not either. I think it's stupid to have them even meet.
Yeah, I agree.
For that.
But so it kind of makes you wonder why he doesn't do as much intensity with Obi-Wan. The Luke thing kind of makes sense. So it's like there's a part of me that's like maybe it's a little too overpowerful for that. But then from the standpoint of seeing even more so how far Anakin had fallen, you know, that in episode 3 it's implied that he's killing younglings, and we know that we see him wreck shop on the separatist leaders. But then to see in episode 4 him be that intense, you know, to get those plans. And so then when he's like, it's too late for me, you know, like I can't come back from the things that I've done. It's like we've seen a little bit of what he's done even relatively recently. And so, yeah.
Yeah. It says, especially after following Kenobi from 1, 2, 3 and Clone Wars, seeing him struck down to those fans who probably like Dad, talking about his dad, watching Han Solo get impaled.
Yeah.
Either just call him Papa Hugh Janus or Hugh Janus Sr.
Hugh Janus Sr.
I don't think he'd mind. He loves the show, too. Well, hello.
Hello,
Hugh Janus
Sr. We are glad that you enjoy our show.
He says, yeah, it hurts to see Han go. I mean, come on, it's freaking Harrison Ford. Of course it's going to hurt. We didn't see the body, though. Yeah, we saw him fall, but I didn't see the body. Just saying, well, it could be a Darth Maul.
That's right.
thing.
You come back with spider legs. Well, I've got spider legs now. And then Bender's like, I bring death. Get out of here.
He says, I don't want to compare the deaths since I feel that comparing it might take away from each individual sacrifice. As much as a part of me wanted to see a prequel-esque lightsaber fighting style during my second viewing, I am more satisfied with the way Dave Filoni went than the way my headcanon went. I also like how Maul dies in a tragic character.
Oh, yeah.
Rather than dying as the villain. He lost everything. Instead of Maul's dying words being, "Curse you, Perry the
Perry the Platypus." That's another reference to Phineas and Ferb. The bad guy Doofenshmirtz. He says, "Curse you, Perry the Platypus," at the end. Because Perry the Platypus, which is the pet platypus of the two kids, is also the secret agent. But the kids don't know it. But in his the evil villain is Doofenshmirtz. That's the one that makes all the innators. Like the Perpinator and the Thisinator. So anyway, yeah. Instead of saying "Curse you, Perry the Platypus,"
yeah, he's or "Curse you, Kenobi," he says he will avenge us. I'm tempted to joke about Maul being only half the Dathomirian he used to be after Obi-Wan cut him down to size. I'd also throw in an Alice in Chains "Down in a Hole" or "Lifeless Dead" reference here. But I'm still too fanboy geeked out about this episode.
Down in a hole.
Also, although some older Star Wars fans might not see it the same way, but I'm excited that I get to say I was alive to see the Alec Guinness version of Obi-Wan Kenobi in action, very much like how I can finally say I got to see new Star Wars content for my generation that had Chewie, Han, Leia, and hide-and-go-seek Master Luke in theaters.
He's in this part of the map that nobody has a map of.
Heck, I'd go to see live-action Darth Vader in theaters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I can now share mutual Star Wars experiences with my parents where we are both discovering content and both coming up with theories at the same time.
And that's one of the best things I think about Star Wars is how it can bring families together.
Sure. Minus the hilariously bad Snoke theories, which Pablo Hidalgo is quick to drop the hammer on.
Drop the hammer.
Drop the hammer now!
Do you know about the hammer, or are you just kind of talking? Because that's a normal phrase, but there's history with our shows and us talking about the hammer. But anyway, go ahead.
No words or memes can describe how amazing I personally think it is to be a Star Wars fan right now. Going back to the previous Droids episode where Hera gets dark and hardwires Josh Gad to self-destruct, ultimately lighting up his entire ship like a moth into the flame. Yeah, okay, I'll stop making jokes about the ever-creeping death of characters.
No, don't stop. Don't stop. That's good.
Yeah, I know. Poor twisted me. Am I evil? Just kidding. Don't answer that. Anywho, is Officer Olaf the first canonical time we see glasses in Star Wars? That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm trying to recall. It might be.
Yeah.
It might be.
He says, anyway, time for a different discussion, or as schools call it, the ADD moment. In The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, do you guys find it annoying that the crouch button is the same button as the moving analog stick? I tried looking up online to see if other players face this situation, but mostly just found a bunch of fan art of Link or forums about Amiibo exclusives. Well, P.S. Will the couch friends ever come back? Also, have any of you guys seen this yet? A link to BuzzFeed, so probably not.
Try to stay away from BuzzFeed as a general rule.
Let's see what it says.
Clickbait land.
The headline is a Star Trek fan spent $30,000 turning his basement into the Starship Enterprise.
I've heard about that.
That's interesting. It looks good. Looks real good.
Is it Constitution class, Galaxy class?
Constitution class.
Yeah. Constitution class. Aye, you're familiar with them. There's one in the Fleet Museum.
That's pretty sweet.
Then again, this is your Enterprise.
Looking at all the pictures.
Yeah. When I was here, I could tell you how fast we were going just by the feel of the deck plates. But on your ship, I feel like I'm in the way.
As far as the Breath of the Wild thing, that never bothered me.
I don't have a Switch yet still. I'm a sad boy. Oh, poor twisted me. That's right.
But no, it never bothered me. The controls did take some getting used to, though.
Yeah.
But once you get them, I mean, you've got them for life, baby.
There you go.
So
got them for life, baby.
So that's Hugh Janus's email.
There you go. It's funny, you know. we've been kind of Debbie Downers last few Rebels casts. And then with this one, we watched 2 episodes that we enjoyed.
Yeah.
And then we got an email from Hugh, who has positivity. And it's
Yeah,
interesting that that's in juxtaposition with the crazy episode 8 trailer.
Right. Well, and he brought up a good point, and maybe this is something that that may influence us going down the road, because it certainly begins to change my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Is his where was it? I want to find exactly where this was. Okay, he says when he's at the very end of his last Star Wars related paragraph, where he says, I can now share mutual Star Wars experiences with my parents, where we are both discovering content and both coming up with theories at the same time. Minus the hilariously bad Snoke theories, which gets the hammer dropped on them. No words or memes can describe how amazing I personally think it is to be a Star Wars fan right now. See, now I think that's interesting, because that's like the total opposite of where we are right now.
We're kind of bummed.
And it's like, but it is interesting and to be honest, kind of uplifting to hear somebody talk about it in those terms.
Yeah.
Where it's like, there is somebody who's probably looking at it like we looked at it, at least as far as the prequels went, where we were like, we knew the ultimate outcome of that story, but we just didn't know how it was going to happen. And, there were all the theories about, what's this going to be, and this going to be, and this going to be. And it kind of makes me wonder, reading what he's got here, kind of makes me wonder, is like, are we kind of losing sight of that? It's like, are we getting caught up in the potential negativity,
right,
more so than the wonder of the cool, cool possible theories?
Yeah, I mean, I think we are, and I think some of that is just maybe old crotchetiness on our part, and jaded, cynical bitterness, and get off my lawn, you kids, I'm cold, kind of thing. But I think the other part of it, which I think, not to say that it's justifiable or unjustifiable or anybody's, sort of feelings need justification, but I think the part of our pessimism that has some rational basis is George, and not George. To me, that is the thing, because you go back to the day that they announced that Lucasfilm had been sold to Disney and that they were going to make a new trilogy was coming, and George had written the outline for it, and that I was excited.
Yeah, I was not.
You were not. I was. But my excitement began to wane as the dominoes started to fall that had George not being involved. The little rumors here and there, and then when it was fully acknowledged that they're not going with his treatment, not just for episode 7, but just in general. It's like, as that information came out, I got less and less excited.
Yeah.
Because of the lack of George connection. And I've, said, since then, that it's like, if it were to come out that the basic, sort of contours of 7, 8, and 9 are what George had in mind, that would change my perception of things. So I for us, I think part of it is that it's like the negativity comes in. We always sort of had this feeling that it's like, we could kind of tell the difference, we think, between George Star Wars and not George Star Wars. And we always like George Star Wars better. We feel like George Star Wars is deeper and it's purer and this, that, and the other. And not that everything that's not George Star Wars is bad, but just, we were excited with the prequels and the wonder of what could be because George was doing it.
True.
And so now it's like, what's not George? And as as awesome as Dave is, he's not exactly George.
No.
And the other thing is, for as awesome as Dave is, he's not the guy in charge.
Right.
And for as much, like I saw on the YouTube comment sections, where somebody who was actually kind of pessimistic about episode 8, and they said something about Disney, and the person used obscenities, which was unnecessary, but to make the point of, you fanboys that keep blaming Disney, stop doing that. It's not Disney, it's the story group. And it's like, but who does the story group answer to?
Disney.
Ultimately, the suits are like, can say, we wanted you to go in this direction.
Yeah.
And they may try to do their best to make a story that works given that direction that's been mandated to them, but it's been mandated to them. So the reality is we don't know exactly what parameters have been given to the story group that from higher up that says this is the direction that you've got to go. Yeah. So we can't really know how much is the pure story group and how much of it is sort of Disney in control. And so,
well, and I think there is a reasonable case to be made for it's still most likely under corporate control.
Right.
It's like yes, the story group can do all this stuff, but when it comes down to it, Disney owns that.
Right.
So if the story group wants to do something, or the story group, has had a really super cool story that's in line with everything that George ever did, and it could be freaking awesome. And I mean, the story group has most likely got to present it
right
to
the higher
suits.
Ups. Yeah.
And if the suits say
no,
that's essentially what happened with George Lucas.
That's exactly
stuff.
Right. That's exactly right.
I mean, so if that can happen to the creator of the franchise, for them to take his stuff and throw it completely out the window,
so they can give us episode 4 with mishmash of a little bit of 5 and 6 redone.
Right. We know who's really in charge.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
That's the thing that
so that YouTube commenter, I'm like, no, sorry, it's to put it all in the story group. I think is a little bit too simplistic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it, and the thing is, I wish I could have Hugh's excitement to that level, but I've just been burned so many times by the Karen Travises of the world. The Kevin J. Andersons of the world. Even relatively decent stuff even, no offense to them. No offense to these people, but even the Timothy Zahns of the world, for as much as I like the Heir to the Empire trilogy, it don't quite feel like Star Wars.
No.
So I've just been burnt by that too much for George Lucas, less, that is the sort of like legless, George Lucas-less Star Wars. Yeah. We've had one movie that was, we came out there, so it ain't so bad. Then on subsequent viewings, it's like, but it ain't so great either.
Yeah.
And then we've had one movie that was not too bad at all.
Not too bad at all.
But that had John Knoll involved, and you coming up with the story, and you had the story group input, and you had Doug Chang as the designer.
You had approval by George Lucas. That's a big one.
Yeah, exactly. And then you had George being like, yeah. So it's like. So we've had one that was a swing and then we've had one that
George
was a
Lucas
swing
did not approve of.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that. And so I just can't bring myself to be that optimistic.
Yeah.
And then too, and I know we bash the guy and it's, like, oh, here it comes again. But the thing with J.J. Abrams is like, I don't have a good track record for him in terms of his storytelling, and especially his storytelling in somebody else's sandbox.
Yeah, he's just not good at it.
I don't like the way he does it, because I feel like it's the first rap musicians were influenced by jazz and blues and R&B and rock and roll, and the second, third, and fourth generations of rap artists were influenced by rap.
Right.
And it gets watered down and diluted. That's what I feel like J.J. Abrams does.
Yeah.
And so, for better or for worse, that from my perspective, that's where it comes from. And so it's like if he and Timothy, Irvin Kershner, not Irvin Kershner, what's his name?
Well, if you wouldn't have asked me, I could have told you.
I know, but then I asked you, and now you can't tell me. What's his name? Lawrence Kasdan. Lawrence
Kasdan. Yeah.
If he and Lawrence Kasdan, we know that they wrote the script. Presumably, if they wrote the story, it's like I just don't trust J.J. Abrams to have had that interesting of base ideas for this trilogy to pan out with. So I want to be excited. I want to be like that, but I'm just too old and too cynical. Yeah. And so it just has to be, well, we'll see.
Yeah. I know we're about to talk about the trailer, but I hope it's good.
Yeah.
We're still going to go see it.
Yeah.
And I still think, with it being a mainline Star Wars movie, we should still go see that on opening day.
Yeah.
But, I'm not getting my hopes up for it.
Right.
and that in and of itself is, you know, the kind of the sad thing.
Yeah.
So I'm not getting my hopes up for the new Star Wars movie, but I mean, I want it to be good,
Right.
but it's got a 50-50 shot.
Yeah. So far, they're betting a 5,
Yeah.
0.5. You know, are batting 500, right? So you know, which I mean, for baseball is pretty good, batting 500, but for movies, you know, not so much. And the thing is, it's like, well, you know, did you guys? Someone could ask. I don't think Hugh would ask this, but you know, someone could ask us, be like, well, did you guys just, you know, automatically assume, well, if George makes a movie, I'm going to enjoy it? Well, one, we kind of figured it was likely.
Yeah.
And the thing is, even if we didn't necessarily, I think we both were in the position of, with the mindset of, but I'll accept it.
Yeah.
It's like
and that's a big factor
that
to
even if I don't particularly, you know, think it's the most interesting story or the best story or the story that I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
He's the guy that made it all. He says this is what happened. Well, it's what happened.
Well, that's kind of the way I feel about the midichlorian thing.
Yeah.
It's like, is that the greatest idea in the world? No. But I can understand why it was done.
Right.
I mean, you know, you got to put a quantifiable number on what Anakin is capable of doing.
Exactly.
You know, without just showing him just wrecking shop on people.
Exactly.
You know, and then, you know, it's like I said, to me, it's not the greatest. I don't know. It confuses things in a certain way. But at the same time, it's like,
that's how it works.
That's how it works. It's like, that's the way the creator of Star Wars says it works. So that's the way
how
it
it works.
works.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I can't do anything about that. I can't. That's the reason I don't make the whole head canon thing.
Right. Because it's like the creator's version of what happened is what happened.
Right.
And it bothers us too. I mean, I don't accept what George Lucas did with that movie. Well, you have to.
You have to.
Because otherwise, you're just breaking the cohesion down. You're like, I'm just going to accept whatever I'm going to accept.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's not, I mean, I know that none of these events actually happen, but the point is that it's like, if you're going to do that, then what's the point? But when, as we talked about before, when you transfer it from the creator to a corporation or to a group of different people, it's like, if episode 1, 2, and 3, it's like, okay, I don't know what the story is going to be, and I'm excited to find out about it. And if I like it, cool. And if I don't, well, at least I'll know what happened. But with this story, if it's like, well, if it's lame, I'll be like, well, is that what George would have done? As we've talked about before.
Yeah, you've always got that question in your mind: is this what the guy that we like would have, would have done? And
the guy who really, truly created this thing would have done.
And having that question on your mind the entire time is just, and especially after episode 7,
right?
Knowing for a fact that that's not what he would have done.
Yeah.
That bothers the crap out of me.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's tough for me to get too excited about it, given that it started with a story that the guy said, no, this is not what I would have done. Yeah. So it's like, there's some level in which I don't know, my enjoyment of a movie increases just by saying, okay, well, this is what happened. It's like with the prequels, there's no bit of me that has to be like, well, but is this really the idea I'm comfortable with? It's like, it's what happened.
Yeah.
It's like with this one, it's like, I have to hope, in some sense, I have to hope that I like it more than I like a George Lucas movie to compensate for the fact that George didn't make it.
Right.
You know, in terms of, it's like, because if there are parts of it that I don't like, I don't get to be like, well, but it's how it goes.
Right.
So the parts that I don't like as much become magnified because compared to a George Lucas made movie, because with a George Lucas made movie, those parts that I'm not crazy about are diminished because those parts you say, yeah, but guess what? I really happened in the canon. It's like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I think part of our diminished capacity for excitement comes from. So that's that, which I guess brings us to
the
trailer. So I saw the trailer.
He saw the trailer first.
And so I'm watching and I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, okay, we are really just starting right off where it left off. And it goes through and she's like, I see the light and the dark and the balance. And he's like, so much bigger. And I'm like, that didn't sound like that came from that same scene. And some of this all sounds spliced together a little bit, but okay. And then there's ships in space. I'm like, well, that's good because it's Star Wars and Finn's in this like medical looking thing and his eyes are closed. I'm not sure what's going on there. And
he's recovering.
Yeah, that's kind of what I guessed.
Yeah.
But it's like it looks like he's flying the ship, even though he's unconscious. I don't get that. And then there's a little bit of there was a nice shot of Poe Dameron and BB-8 like running down a hallway. I'm like, that looks like Star Wars. Okay, that's cool. And then you've got there's like one shot of Kylo Ren and he's got his lightsaber. And all
Very
that.
similar to the shot that was used in the Episode 7 trailer.
Yes, exactly. And then you get the end of it, and I'm like, really?
Yeah, because
Really? So then I messaged Josh.
yeah, he was like, "Have you seen the trailer yet?" And I was like, "I didn't know it was available. I'll
Let me
check
go
it
look."
out right now."
And then I get a text a few minutes later.
And it's nothing but the emoticon of the eye rolling thing.
Eye roll emoji. And I was like, yep. Indeed. And it's like,
So-
we were both like, we were both responding with essentially, if this is where you're going, well, we're done.
Yeah, and well, let's just go into the part of the trailer that we don't like.
Okay.
And that's the whole thing when Ray starts talking, or well, Luke asks Ray, he's like, reach out, what do you see?
Reach out.
And she's like, light, darkness, the balance. And then Luke says, it's so much bigger. Like, just on a cursory evaluation of that, like, I'm like, I don't like that at all.
Yep. I was like, ooh, really?
Yeah, it's just that, I mean, that exchange there tells me exactly what I did not want to hear. Like the exact thing that I was afraid of from the very beginning of all this mess. Like, I mean, I'm talking about all the way back to the let's sell it to Disney,
Right.
Because just from that conversation, it's like an undoing of everything.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's
It's not about the light being good and the dark being evil and the light overcoming the darkness.
yeah.
It's like the sign of the times, or not the sign of the times, but it's like, a reflection of the times where it was like George was kind of going against the grain and trying to go back to good and evil kind of stuff, even if there was some nuance and some layering and things. And it's like, what do we do with new Star Wars that comes out in the late 2010s? Well, we make it questioning the, standards of right and wrong or light and dark. I mean, it's like we're sticking postmodernism in Star Wars.
Right.
We're breaking down, we're deconstructing in Star Wars. I'm like, really?
Yeah, let's not do that.
Let's not do that. And I know some people could say, well, yeah, but look, you've got some George Lucas approved, maybe precedent for some of this, like with the Mortis trilogy, where the father, where Morton was talking about, Mark was talking about being beyond like the Sith and the Jedi. And I think even Morton kind of gave some, credence to that it's like there's more to it than that. And so when Luke says that's so much bigger, I'm like, but then I thought, well, but there were some things that Morton said and Mark said that kind of made me go, too, but those came from George, and that hasn't George wasn't using that to unravel what had come before. So maybe, maybe it's going to be something along those lines. Maybe, and then also maybe he actually isn't saying that in response to what she said. Maybe the trailer's lying, and we'll get into that in a minute. But it's like, but I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not comfortable with it. So the trailer keeps going. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then it gets to the very end of it, and Luke says on a voiceover, but I know one truth. And then it cuts to Luke standing at the mouth of a cave. Camera's looking towards the outside, so we see him silhouetted. And he actually says,
right,
finishing that sentence, the Jedi need to end. And like you can actually see his face making those. He's saying that. And I was just like, I mean, when that happened, I was like, no. Yep. And I was like, what are you doing? No.
Stop it. Yeah.
and I mean, that's, I mean, of course, you've got John Williams music in the background, and it's like, that's nice. But and then
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, it's like some people again might be like, yeah, but with the Morton stuff, with the Jedi, like the season, the bonus season arc with Yoda going and talking to the Force Fireflies and everything, that maybe wasn't there. Some suggestion that George was even moving in that direction by showing that the Jedi were fallible, and some of the things the Jedi did, allowed the Sith to do what they did and be successful and that sort of thing. And
but it's like that's the part of the stuff that was out of balance.
Right.
It's like
Exactly.
the imbalance led to Anakin's downfall, and then Anakin had to make it right.
Right. And
Like-
as Filoni said, only Anakin could end up doing what he did by ended up turning to the dark side and then being in that position. I mean, he even, I think in that interview flat out says it, so that Palpatine wouldn't see it coming.
Yeah.
And that's what we've said all along.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if that's just sort of our analysis that was turned out to be right, or if we got that from George, but from some interview, but that nobody could take down Palpatine frontally.
No.
Because he would see it coming.
Yep.
You had to do it in a way that he didn't see coming. But in order to do it in a way that he didn't see coming, it would have to be done in a way that whoever did it, who could get close enough to do it, didn't see coming.
Right.
And that's what it was. Anakin doesn't see it coming until it's there. Like, he's looking at his son. He's looking at Palpatine. He's looking at his son. He's looking at Palpatine. It's growing a little bit. Maybe it is coming at that point. But, of course, Palpatine's too busy having fun, killing somebody.
Yep.
And so he's too distracted for the few seconds that it takes to go from it's coming to it's here.
Yeah.
So Anakin turns to the dark side. Luke is able to pull Anakin back because of his love, and Anakin is thus able to blindside Palpatine, the puppet master, and give him something he didn't expect and throw him down in a hole. So like I say, the Force was out of balance. Anakin brought it back. And so the idea that George was sort of trying to diminish the good and evil part of it was like, he could have done a special edition where he changed the ending too, but he didn't do it.
Yeah.
The ending is still the ending.
Yeah.
Anakin still turns to the good side and ends up, Force Ghost with Obi-Wan and Yoda. So, no, I would suggest that there's not a sufficient amount of evidence to show that. And truthfully, if George did want to go in that direction, I would be disappointed.
Sure.
I'd have to accept it because that's what he did. And truthfully, it would probably lead to a very similar form of, all right, well, I guess I'm done with Star Wars.
Yeah.
But it would, I guess, maybe have another layer of disappointment that it was coming from George.
Right.
But I don't think that would be the case.
No.
And just for as much as maybe he would want to sometimes show complexity and nuance, the fact that, as he even said the other day, I made these for 12-year-olds. It's like, is he going to be telling 12-year-olds, well, the moral ambiguity? And I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
Yeah.
It's like, don't aspire to be a Jedi, aspire to be something else. Yeah. So yeah. And so, yeah, you texted me, and I was like, yeah, I'm the same way. I'm just, the marginal bit of excitement might be too strong a word, but okay, all right, that I was having through most of the trailer, especially from a design standpoint. I'm like, this feels more like Star Wars design, more like Doug Changish maybe kind of stuff. I don't know who's doing in the art, but what I saw felt a little bit more accurate and right. And then the ending just killed it.
Yeah.
And then reading the YouTube comments just killed it.
Yeah.
I actually commented. If you go to the official Star Wars trailer, you'll
right.
find my comment going, there are way too many people commenting happily. Maybe I didn't say happily, but it's like, there's way too many comments about Grey Jedi here for my taste. All these people are just like, it's the best thing since sliced bread, Grey Jedi.
Like, speculation's cool and all.
Yeah.
But it's like, at least speculate with some evidence to back up your claim.
Based on known quantities and canon information.
Right. And none of these people are doing that.
Yeah.
Like, none of them. Like, I mean, you go back to the thing that I read. In Return of the Jedi, Luke didn't bring balance to the Force at all. He just made the light side of the scale heavier.
It's like he didn't do anything.
It's like, yeah.
Anakin was the operator there.
Right.
And Anakin brought balance. So it's like in that comment, the person seems to think that Star Wars has asserted Like, he seems to think that we're supposed to think that Luke brought balance.
Yeah, it's like,
and
you've
he's like,
missed the point,
Yeah, and he's
sir.
complaining. He's like, well, but Luke didn't really bring balance. It's like, well, of course he didn't, because that's never been the idea. The idea
No.
was that Anakin did it.
Yep.
And Anakin did it. And then the other point about, well, he just kind of, what did he say? Luke didn't bring
made the
balance.
light
He just
side
made the light side heavier. It's like, again, don't think of it in terms of balancing of scales and weights and
Right.
things like that. That's not necessarily the kind of balance that you should think about. Again, think about the kind of balance. If you're going to bring up evidence and try to figure out what the idea there is, think about the lesson that Yoda was supposed to learn in the bonus series, where he went and he faced the sort of evil version of himself, and he came to realize that I can't ignore my imperfections, that I can't try to completely shut them out thinking that I've done so.
Right.
Not that you don't try to be a good person, but that you don't naively think that you can achieve this status of perfection. At least that's what I got from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That Yoda had to acknowledge.
Well, again, I think that's part of the imbalance in the Force. The Jedi had gotten haughty to a certain extent.
Right, they had gotten overly confident.
Right. So I mean, there was like we said earlier in the episode, there was corruption there to a certain degree.
Yeah.
On the Jedi side, the fact that the Sith were even around,
Right.
is like it. So to me,
Everything was out of whack because of those things.
That's the balance. That's the imbalance there. It's not. It's not like you said. It's not a. There's too much light or there's too much dark.
Numerical 1-to-1 correspondence.
That's not how it works. It's like the Force, from what I see, is inherently a good thing.
Right.
But you've got corruption on the Jedi side. You got corruption from the Sith side. You get that out. That's back into balance.
Right.
That's back into the normalcy.
Right. You're not balancing necessarily. You're not necessarily balancing light and dark together in the sense, like we said, not just of the numerical sense, but it's difficult to put it into words because, again, when we think of balance, we think so much of sort of numerical balance.
Yeah.
But it's this idea of things not being in their proper place. And again, it's the individual being imbalanced in themselves, not acknowledging certain parts of reality. I mean, again, you think about Anakin and his deal with death. And in episode 3, when Yoda's like, death is a natural part of life. It's like, that's one of those things you have to accept, the balance of that reality. It's almost like not necessarily looking at good things and not at bad things, but it's looking at one side of things and not the other. So it's not balance in terms of I'm going to find the position between good and bad, but it's the kind of balance that I talk about a lot, where it's the balance of, you've got a certain amount of evidence that suggests this thing is true and a certain amount of evidence that suggests this thing is true. The balance, the truth might be somewhere in the middle,
Right.
Where it's like, it's like people get into politics. Well, and the Republicans are this way and the Democrats are this way, and depending on your political perspective, you might say, oh, the Republicans are all good and the Democrats are all bad. Or the Democrats are all good and the Republicans are all bad. And balance says that things are probably not that simple.
Right.
And so it's that kind of balance. It's the balance of taking all the available information in and seeing things as they really are.
Yep.
And when people, especially people that can use the Force like Sith and Jedi, are not doing that. And the Sith clearly aren't seeing things as they really are.
No.
But again, neither were the Jedi.
Nope.
Even though their intentions were good and they were trying to do the right thing, their perception was skewed, and that was pushing things in an imbalanced direction either. So it's not balance in that kind of sense necessarily. So at least that's what we would contend. And we're trying to use evidence from Star Wars canon to make that point.
Right.
As opposed to YouTube folks, many of which who are bringing up, I saw this Conrad comic book back in the 1990s
Right.
that had the Gray Jedi. And,
Yeah, it's like that was, for one, that was never canon.
Right.
Number two, it's definitely like there has been a stamp put on it that is not canon now.
Right. So
Like-
it's yet to be seen whether anything like that will show up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's disappointing to see all those comments again from the sort of speculation and being irrational about
And
it
like
standpoint.
the thing that bothers me too is like people like that are people who are like, I hated the prequels.
Right.
It's like you have invalidated the fact that you even watched Star Wars.
Yeah.
And you're going to tell me that you didn't like the prequels,
Right.
And the prequels are awful movies,
Yeah.
And George Lucas don't know how to write a story.
Right.
Like, but yet you didn't understand that story at all.
Right. It totally went apparently over your head or under your head or something.
I mean, seriously.
And it's not like, oh, we're so genius because we picked
No,
up.
it's not that
It's
hard
not
to
that hard to
understand.
figure out. You just have, again, you have to be willing to find balance and to accept things as they really are and to see the information for what it really is.
Yep.
It's like the people that sort of hail Han Solo's Star Wars universe version of atheism. Where it's like, Han Solo's so cool because he's like, I don't have any mystical energy field controls my destiny. He's like, he doesn't believe, It's like, yeah, except until the end of episode 4 when he's about to leave on his own and he's like, may the force be with you. And maybe he actually kind of means it, like he's coming around. And then at the end of episode 4 when he comes back and saves the day because he's trusting in him in episode 5 or episode 6, he's like, Jedi Knight, Luke can't even take care of himself. Not Jedi Knight, that's a silly concept. And then there's a little thing in episode 7. It's all true.
Yeah.
All of it. But it's like, even clearly by the time of episode 4, he's not this. So it's like, did you not watch episode 4?
Yeah.
If you're like, yeah, see, in the movie showing it, and I want to say, like, I saw a comment that was that way, but it was sort of like, that's the point that Star Wars is trying to make. There's no mystical energy field controls destiny and sort of Star Wars atheism. It's like, that's not the point of episode 4.
No.
The point of episode 4 is not the Force does not exist.
Right, because it clearly does.
It's just not.
I mean, you saw the movie.
Yeah, you're missing the point. And again, we're not saying, we're so genius. We're just saying you're missing the point. And so, yeah, to miss that idea, and I guess people are like, so, well, you need to think deeper and this, that, and the other, and it's really something more subtle than that. It's like, if it's more subtle than that, then it's taking away the concept of good and evil. And what's the point of the story, as we've said before?
Exactly.
If there's no good and there's no evil, what's the point? It's just things happening. So again, just like in reality, if you don't believe in any sort of objective morality, if you believe we just sort of make morality and it's just purely subjective, then it's a question of, well, what do you mean by morality then if we construct it? And if there is no morality, what's the point to anything?
Well, and then there's the whole point about, when Rey and Luke are talking, and she does mention the balance, and then Luke says, "Oh, there's so much more." It's like, that's still, to me, like you talk about with, if there's a moral gray area, it invalidates Star Wars. That invalidates Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, which, we've already given evidence here to back up the fact that Anakin Skywalker is the person who brought balance to the Force.
Yeah.
That little bit there in the trailer suggests that that's not the case.
Right.
And suggests, I mean, it leans heavily towards suggesting that, it's just going to be Rey who does it.
Right. Or the idea that yes, maybe Anakin brought balance to the Force, but that wasn't really a big deal. That really wasn't a notable thing. What the notable thing is what Rey and Luke are going to do.
Yeah. And, again, that just poops on the story that we already have.
Yeah, and not just the prequels, but 4, 5, and 6 as well.
Exactly.
Because, I mean, think all that Luke did. I mean, even if you take the Chosen One prophecy out of the equation, like it's just a non-entity, it's not in there at all. All that Luke and Han and Leia did by building up the defeating the Empire and Vader turning on Palpatine and then presumably Luke setting up a new Jedi Order and all of that. And then apparently it didn't mean anything because all them Jedi got killed, and it turns out Luke thinks that's a good idea, and it is a good idea because the Jedi don't need to exist anymore. It's like, what was the point? I mean, that's the problem with Episode 7 too. It's like, oh, we have a republic now, and we got rid of the Empire, but now we've got this First Order. We don't know what their scope is, and there's resistance.
They look exactly
the same, and there's a resistance, and we don't know what that means relative to any kind of republic, because the republic is mentioned, and they destroy a planet. So who's more powerful now? We don't know. Yada da da da. But the point is that it's like, so yeah, pretty much everything that happened before doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Insofar it only matters insofar as it set up people that can interact with Rey.
Yeah.
And maybe Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I just wasn't really, and then too, just the idea that there are so many, and again, the internet is not a scientific sampling, but there seem to be so many people that, again, claim to be Star Wars fans that are excited about moral ambiguity, theoretically, or at least the possibility of it in Star Wars.
That's just saying.
Or don't realize that the implications of that trailer are a suggestion of moral ambiguity. They're just like, it's cool because Jedi can maybe use Force lightning now.
Yeah.
It's like, don't even sort of pick up on or appreciate or care about that. It's like, that's just sort of disappointing to me, again, just and you too, because the ethical sort of morality element of Star Wars has always been so fascinating to us. But so Josh and I were talking about it via text, and we sort of had 3, and we've expanded it to 4 possibilities.
Yeah.
Talking about our own, sort of guessing and speculating.
Right. Because I had watched, like, right after Nick and I had the couple of texts back and forth, like, I went and watched the trailer about 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
Like back to back. Because I was like, okay, I've got to see if there's just something I'm missing.
Right.
Or what. And so I sent Nick this huge long text, that I had 3 points in it. And that's what Nick's about to talk about. Just trying to think, okay, well, how can I be looking at this wrong?
Right.
So go ahead.
So it seems to us logically there are 4 basic possibilities here.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is that the trailer is deceiving us.
Right.
Now, as Josh pointed out, we see Mark Hamill's mouth moving. Mm-hmm. It matches the words that are being heard. So those are the words that are coming out of his mouth.
Right.
And that is, the Jedi Order must end. Or Jedi must end. Mm-hmm. Now, we do not see him saying, I know this one truth.
Right.
So it's technically possible that part and the Jedi must end are not part of the same sentence.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good chance that they are, but it's not a guarantee. So it is possible that the trailer is lying to us in that it is claiming that Luke has a sentence that he says that he doesn't say.
Mm-hmm.
And if those 2 bits are not part of one sentence, then it raises the possibility that perhaps the first part of that sentence is something like, some people mistakenly believe that the Jedi Order must end. Or I, at one point, after all this happened, I came here because my first thought was the Jedi must end.
Right. Yeah.
But I've now come to realize. So it could be, possibility number 1 is the trailer is deceiving us by splicing things together in such a way to give us an impression that something is being said that is not what's actually being said.
And that's not out of the realm of possibility.
Certainly not.
Because Rogue One did that.
Yeah.
Like, most of what's in the trailer for Rogue One was not in the movie.
And
shots, lines, everything.
And then some of the ones that are spliced together in different ways than what are in the movie.
Like, there's even, I forget which trailer it was, but there was one for Rogue One that almost kind of implied that Jyn Erso was going to be like a bad guy,
right?
Or going to defect,
yeah,
or something. And
that's just like the one of her like wearing the TIE pilot uniform.
Yeah,
I always kind of got that vibe. That it's like, because he's like, what will you become?
Yeah,
like in that whole speech, which is not in the movie, by the way. And he's saying, what will you do and what will you become? Like, is she going to be good or bad?
Yeah, and like
there's never a point in the movie at all. Like, there's never a point in the movie where you're like, well, maybe Jyn Erso is going to be bad. Like, you never get that impression. So trailers do that. Mm-hmm. Or even less impactful ones. As Liz pointed out.
Well, freaking episode 2 did that.
Yeah.
Like, it made you believe that the Clone War, like what he was talking about, because it was Cliegg Lars it was his speech from episode 2, where he's talking about the Sand People coming after Anakin's mom.
Right.
But the way you're supposed to think in that trailer, what he's talking about is the clones.
The clones, yeah, exactly. And it's like, that's not what was going on.
Not what was going on at all.
Or episode 3, one that Liz pointed out, that doesn't really have any story impact. But in one of the episode 3 trailers, I guess it was the longer trailer, they spliced together 2 bits of Palpatine talking. Yep. One where he says, Lord Vader, and one where he says, rise. And so you put them together, and it's like he says, Lord Vader, rise. Like, and then it shows the shot of him coming up in the suit. And so you think that's what's going to happen. He's going to say, rise. And that's not what happens at all.
Nope.
He does say Lord Vader in that scene. Mm-hmm. And then that's where it's like, I'm afraid you murdered her and all that jazz. But the rise comes much earlier in the movie when he actually becomes Darth Vader.
Yeah.
After he helps Palpatine, he accidentally helps Palpatine kill Mace Windu.
Mm-hmm.
So, trailers do that. So, possibility number one is that the trailer's deceiving us. Luke doesn't actually say that sentence.
Yep.
Or that there's sentences before it or after it that invalidate the impression we get. Because it could be that he's like, I used to tell people, I know this one truth, the Jedi must end, but I was wrong. So again, he might actually say those two things back to back, but the context might give us a different impression of it. It's possibility number one. Possibility number two.
Mm-hmm.
Luke does actually say that,
Mm-hmm.
but Luke is purposefully lying.
Yeah.
That is that Luke, as a character, is saying something that he does not believe. Now, I said he was lying. That's not the best way to put it. It's better the way I put it the second time. That he is saying something he does not believe to be true. Maybe because he's trying to deceive somebody. Maybe because, and this kind of goes back to number one, this part could overlap with number one, and that is that he's saying something that he does not believe is true, but for some story reason, he says it.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, now that's not exactly my number two.
Right. Your number, go ahead.
My number two was that what he's saying he does believe, but it's what he's saying is based off of guilt,
and that's my number three.
Okay, yeah. Okay, we'll go ahead.
Because so basically, so that would be number two is he says it, but he doesn't mean it, and it's not true. Number three is he says it and means it, but it's not true.
Yeah.
Or another way to put it is he says it, he means it, but he's wrong.
Yeah.
The Jedi don't need to end.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead and expand on it, because that was your point.
Well, and that basically he's saying that because of me being a Jedi and training all these Jedi, got all these Jedi killed and everything, and I feel so bad about that I'm going to exile myself to Octo or whatever this place is called, and I'm just not going to fool with it anymore. I'm not going to train you because
we need to stop.
We need to stop
our existence. It's almost like
Oh, and somebody else had pointed out too, and I thought this was a good point. That basically, if you cut out the Jedi, you also cut out one of the dark side's main
biggest
recruiting
recruiting
people. Like we got pretty much the Sith in episodes 1, 2, and 3, or at least the apprentices, all come from the Jedi.
Right.
Well, we don't know about Maul.
Yeah. Maul came from Dathomir.
Yeah, that's right. But at least from episodes 2 and 3.
Yeah, Dooku and Anakin both come from the Jedi, yeah.
So you cut that out.
Plus, what does Maul say in episode 1? Lest we will seek revenge against, lest we will, what does he say? Lest we will, something the Jedi Order, at least lest we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi Order, lest we will have revenge. So it's like part of it is, you could say, well, the Sith are doing what they're doing in episode 1 because, so one could say, well, yeah, no, maybe Luke's got a point, because if the Sith, if the Jedi did not exist, the Sith wouldn't have the motivation to have their revenge on them.
Right.
But the thing is, one, Luke doesn't have access to that conversation that Palpatine and Maul had on a balcony somewhere. Second of all, it doesn't seem that Palpatine's only reason to want to gain control over the entire galaxy was just to stick it to the Jedi. Otherwise, once he stuck it to the Jedi, he'd be like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to go step down. So that doesn't work. That could, though, be the kind of thing that Luke mistakenly believes, which is this point, that his guilt kind of causes him to have a warped sense of perspective about things. It's much like what Vision says in Civil War when they're debating the Sokovia Accords, where he says, there's been an exponential increase of major threats in the last however many years it's been since Tony Stark first became Iron Man. And he even says, power like ours, it courts challengers, it courts contenders. And so what Vision isn't saying, so therefore we need to disband. He's saying we need to be under control. But a similar point, you could almost imagine someone like Luke saying, it's like, look, the very fact that the Jedi exist courts people wanting to be evil and to bring us down.
Right.
And so it's like, we imbalance things because our existence generates evil. But the thing is, you could say, well, is there some empirical evidence to suggest that maybe that's the case? And what if there is? In the same way that sometimes people want to stop good people from doing good things just because they don't like the good people.
Yeah, I call it the internet.
Right, exactly. But that doesn't mean that what the solution is people ought to stop being good.
Right.
Just because being good makes some people, brings out the evil in some people, doesn't mean you stop being good. And if you stop being good, or at least being so good, then that'll stop bringing out the evil in people.
Right. Well, it's the whole thing that, a lot of atheists use against Christianity.
Right.
It's like, stop being a Christian because Christian leads to war.
Right.
And war's bad.
Right. And it's like, yes, war is bad.
Yes.
And yes, the existence of Christianity has been a factor, but it hasn't, I would argue, it's a very complicated can of worms. Don't want to obviously get too far afield into it. But are there people who have fought in the name of Christianity? Certainly.
Sure.
Has some of that I would argue that perhaps there's no fighting in the name of Christianity, in and of itself that is sort of legitimate. But fighting in the name of goodness,
Sure.
which Christianity, claims to uphold, seems perfectly valid. I mean,
Right.
the New Testament talks about, the government doesn't bear the sword in vain, that it exists to punish evildoers, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So Christianity's existence has been a factor to some extent in conflict. That's true. And it is today, whether on a warfare scale or just on a conflict between people kind of scale.
Sure.
Now, what was your point going to be about that?
Well, my point is that shouldn't mean that people should run out and say, well, people stop being Christians.
Right.
Because, Christianity ultimately teaches good.
Right.
So, to say to somebody, stop being Christian because some people have done some bad things, because of Christianity.
That puts the responsibility on the wrong factor.
Exactly. Right.
It focuses on if you hadn't have been good, they wouldn't have been bad.
Right.
It's like, but I was good, and they chose to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
And they chose to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
And who's responsible for the badness? Them. Yes, my goodness, my goodness might be a link in the causal chain that ended up with them being bad. But the link that was, I will now be bad, involved and would not happen if it wasn't for their choosing it.
Mm-hmm.
That has to happen. There was some, I think maybe it was a real world discussion, but I want to say we talked about it on a podcast about this kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, yes, this thing might be a part of a causal chain that might be involved in, this led to this led to this led to something bad.
Mm-hmm.
But the bad that is done by men and women is done because men and women choose to do what's bad.
Yeah.
And so it makes no sense to say, stop being good, so those people won't have a motivation for being bad. Because one, you don't know that they won't find another motivation. And two, it still is putting the emphasis and the responsibility not on the part of the individual, but it's like, well, they couldn't help it. They couldn't help it be bad because you were good. No, they could have helped to be bad.
Yeah.
They chose to be bad. So, but you could see how
I think
someone...
we were talking about Suicide Squad.
Yeah, maybe that was it. Yeah. But so you can see that. I mean, it's when I get back to 1985, I'm going to destroy this time machine.
Mm-hmm.
It's brought nothing but disaster.
It's not the time machine's fault,
It's
Doc.
not the time machine's fault, Doc. And Doc, you were in the middle of a bad way. But when Back to the Future 3 is over, when Doc comes back,
Mm-hmm.
when Jennifer and Marty go to see the wrecked DeLorean, what happens? Doc shows up. What did Doc do? How did Doc show up? It's because he made another time machine.
Right.
And not only did he make another time machine, he didn't just jump to 1985. He'd already jumped to the future, given himself a hover conversion on a train, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But then when he leaves for some unknown time again.
Mm-hmm.
So the point being that in part 2, Doc was like, this time machine shouldn't exist. But if you were to ask Doc right before he leaves at the end of part 3, hey, are you going to destroy all them time machines? Do you wish you'd never made the time machine like you said earlier? Of course he would say, I don't believe that at all. I'm glad I did it.
Right.
Because your life has been made better, and my life's been made better. We got Clara, we got Jules and Vern, we got the little dudes. Everything's good now. So you could see how this number 3 option might very well be the case. That Luke might genuinely believe, because he's got some of his evaluation out of whack because of all of the suffering that he's seen. He's like, look, every time the Jedi exist, bad things happen. So I guess we need to stop having Jedi. It's like, but that's a causal fallacy.
Yeah.
And so that's number 3.
And then immediately that's when they go to the Order of the Bendu thing, and they're like, oh, well, that's what that means, is because, if the Jedi shouldn't exist, then there's going to be some other thing, because you got to have some kind of Force thing in Star Wars, so it's going to get rid of the Jedi and do this Bendu thing. It's like, no, that's not going to happen.
Plus, it's like, if they're going to be consistent with the Bendu, then they'd be all they'd all be neutral.
Right.
And it would just be, all Force wielders would be chaotic neutral.
Right.
What do you do with that?
That wouldn't be an interesting story, I'll tell you that.
No, not for me. Not for me. But so just to recap, number 1, the trailer is deceiving us.
Right.
Number 2, Luke says it. The trailer is telling us the truth, but Luke does not believe what he's saying. Number 3, Luke does believe what he's saying, but he's wrong. And then number 4, the one we're dreading might be true, is that Luke says it, believes it, and is right.
Yeah.
That Star Wars is saying that in the Star Wars universe, there need to be no more Jedi.
Yeah.
That it's the Bendu thing. That it's, no more good guys or bad guys in a traditional sense. And of course, my question is, well, what does that mean? I mean, are you talking about everybody being chaotic neutral? Every Force user being chaotic neutral? Are you talking about coming up with a new order of good Force wielders that somehow have some different regulations than the Jedi had, so you can justify calling them something different?
Right.
And we just don't know enough about what might be entailed by number 4 to evaluate it. But the problem with that is, it seems like of the different options that you could have available, they would fall into one of two categories. Either they would be lame clickbait kinds of things, where it's like, oh, the Jedi don't need to exist, but we're going to come up with a new order, and most of the rules are going to be the same, but some of them are going to be different, but we're not going to be called the Jedi anymore, we'll be called something different. And so it's kind of like, oh, okay, so you're really still like Jedi, but you've come up. So it's a lame bait and switch.
Yep.
Or that's category number 1, or they would be options that would fall into category number 2, which is we've ruined Star Wars. We've broken Star Wars.
Yeah.
So number 4 seems to only lead us with lame marketing gimmick, or you broke Star Wars.
Yep.
And I don't like either of those.
No.
So I think I'm hoping for number 3. I guess number 2 or number 3. I'd probably prefer number 2, but I don't think 2 is very likely.
No.
I think it's probably either 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Luke believes what he says when he says it.
Yeah.
But we don't know whether he should believe it.
Right. Yeah, and there's some reason to believe that maybe, it does go along with
he's wrong. He's mistaken.
Yeah, he's just mistaken, because like the conversation that Luke and Rey have sound like they were taken from 2 completely different parts of the movie.
Yeah.
They do not sound like they are actually having that conversation.
Right.
So, and then there was also a quote
from Daisy
Ridley, my Jedi girlfriend.
That's right.
Jedi girlfriend, not Grey Jedi girlfriend.
That's right.
Jedi girlfriend.
Not Bendu girlfriend.
She says, let me get it here. She said, Rey has a certain expectation as to what she might be getting from Luke, and what that might entail. In other words, I'm going to go to Luke, I'm going to get trained.
You want to go to Dagobah.
And as a lot of people might know, it's difficult when you meet your heroes, because it might not be what you expect. This is apparent given Luke's final ominous look. It's supposed to be line of the teaser. It's time for the Jedi to end. So to me, that kind of gives me the impression that if she were allowed to end that sentence or that thought, and I've got to be the one to stop him from doing that.
Right.
Because I went into this expecting to be trained, and turns out I'm like, holy crap, this guy's like all down in the dumps and everything, and he's wanting to end the Jedi.
Right.
I don't want that
Yeah.
because I need the Jedi because we need to fix this crap with the First Order.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just my take on it, and that seems to me to lean that way.
Right. But what's interesting is if it does go in that direction, then it raises up another possible criticism of the Rey character, which is that, from perspective of someone who says, yeah, she was already a Mary Sue in the first movie because she knew how to fix the Millennium Falcon better than the guy who owned the Millennium Falcon for so long. That is, she understood the Falcon better than Han Solo. She could Jedi mind trick people without ever being trained. She could fight better than Kylo Ren. She could do all this stuff. And then in Episode 8, she understands the Force and the Jedi and what's right and wrong better than Luke. And Luke Skywalker has to be schooled by her. So not only does she understand the Millennium Falcon better than Han Solo and how to fight better than Kylo Ren, but she understands the Force and the Jedi better than Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be some people who would do that.
Right.
I think they'd be dumb. But, because, I never thought in the movie, I never thought Rey was a Mary Sue.
Yeah. Like, I can see the argument. I just
Sure.
didn't necessarily, I guess it didn't get too much to me.
I the only thing I'm really, that I think could really lend itself to that is the whole, she's able to mind trick people without being trained.
See, and I feel like that has to be some plot point that we don't know about.
Yeah.
Like, there has to be something going on.
Yeah.
Like, that she has training that she doesn't remember or something like that.
got amnesia or something, or...
Yeah. It seems like it's got to be something along those kind of lines.
Yeah.
Like the whole her knowing how to fix the Falcon when Han didn't. It's a questionable one, but he hasn't had the ship in a while, and she has dealt with it more recently than him. And she knows about the converter that was, or the inverter or suppressor or whatever it was that was put on, compressor that was put on it. So, that's okay. And then the whole idea of her overpowering Kylo Ren in the forest.
To me, that one's easy.
This is because it's the dark side.
Yeah.
Which I've seen.
She used the dark side. Kylo Ren's not in the best shape of his life, probably. I'll punch myself, psych myself up. That one to me, that one's easy to get around.
Although I did see some people pointing that out and being like, see, Rey's already kind of going in the Grey Jedi direction because, she used the dark side a little bit clearly in the battle, and then, but she used the light side and she won, so it's all good. It's like, you see, but you think about Episode 1. It's all right there in the Episode 1 Obi-Wan Maul duel. Obi-Wan is mad and angry that Maul killed Qui-Gon. You can see it on his face. And when the door opens and Obi-Wan goes in there all aggressively and offensively, and what happens? He ends up dangling from a little sticky out nubby in a big old hole. How does he defeat Maul? He centers himself. He calms himself. He uses the Force, the light side of the Force, and he's able to jump up and defeat him in a quick, swift stroke. It's all right there. That's it. Same thing going on.
That happens throughout the movies.
Yeah.
That happens at the end of Return of the Jedi. It's like, but it's never portrayed as, and that was a good thing.
Luke stops himself.
Exactly. He's like, no. I'm about to kill him.
And I'm not going to do that. Yeah. Even if I have to die, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. And with Rey, it was the same thing. It's like, that look on her face where she's beating him down and it's almost like she's enjoying it there for a minute. The movie does not portray that as that's a good thing that she's about to kill him.
Yeah, and in fact, the fact that she's sort of saved from the opportunity to do it by the earthquake kind of gives you that, because there isn't that, she's using the dark side, but then she used the good side again. Well, not really. Nature prevented her from finishing what she was doing. And then she's able to focus on, getting out of there and Finn and all of that. So it's, I think it's there in that.
Yep.
So, I just, no. So we will see. But I think at this point, it's like, like you said, speculation's fine and people come up with theories, but it's like, Seems like maybe we've missed something. If you think we missed something, let us know. But it seems like logically those are the only 4 options. The movie's being dishonest, Luke is being dishonest, Luke is being sincere but he's wrong, Luke is being sincere but he's right.
Yeah.
Those are logically your only 4 options.
That's it.
So we will see. But I'm certainly not like counting down the days until episode 8.
We can find out.
Yeah. It's like, well, whatever.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
But, it makes you wonder, too. One of George Lucas's comments after, well, it might have been before episode 7 was released, but it was after they had already let him go, or at least cut his stories out. And he was like, I hope the Force doesn't get muddled down in some gobbledygook.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think this is what he's talking about.
Uh-huh.
I mean, this is what he was not wanting to happen.
Right.
Now, whether he knew about what was coming down the pike or not, don't know.
Don't
know. I kind of doubt he did.
Because why would they tell him?
Yeah. I kind of just think it was more like, well, I'm not having anything to do with, approval on things anymore, so
I gotta hope they don't strip it of integrity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw that, and one of the first I saw the trailer, and one of the first things I thought was, George's comments about episode 7, and about how he, kind of didn't like it. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I wonder what he thinks about episode 8.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure he's either seen it by now, or he's been on set and knows what the story is and all that stuff, and I'm sure he knows what's involved in it. And I'm just thinking, man, I wonder what he thinks about that one.
Yeah. Is he cool with it? Is he not?
Because if it's going in the direction that it seems,
then
he ain't gonna be cool with it.
I don't think he's gonna be cool with it. But I guess we won't find out until after the movie comes out.
Yeah.
Somebody will have to ask him, and he'll have to say. So.
Yeah. I just hope he's honest again.
Yeah. I was like, tell me if you don't like it.
Yeah.
So. Well, there you go. I guess that's about that.
That's about that.
All right, because that's about all I got to say about that. Well, thank you for listening, folks.
Yep.
For this long episode of Rebels Cast, we hope you've enjoyed it, and email us and do all those things. David will tell you how to do that.
Yep.
All right then. I guess that's it.
That's it.
Okay. Ben Burt.
He's still gonna do the movie.
That's right. I guess he's cool like that.
Yeah. He
So-
don't care about it.
He's like, I just make sound
like to make
effects.
sounds.
I like to make cool things, make sound cool. That's what I do.
Yeah.
What do you do? I do that. You a real big boat? Real shrimp boat? Until next time, I'm Nick Weymouth.
And I'm going to bed.
And we will see you in the future.
Rebels Cast is not endorsed by Lucasfilm Limited or Disney and is intended for entertainment purposes only. Star Wars and all Star Wars items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective copyright or trademark holders. You can email Nick and Josh at rebelscastsmg@gmail.com, join the Rebels Cast Facebook page, visit their website at innerdorkdom.com, and visit southgatemediagroup.com to enjoy podcast content covering the entire spectrum of entertainment. For everyone at Rebels Cast, I'm Microsoft David. Thanks for listening and may the Force be with you. End of line.
I bring death.